colors in your mind. Kicks and stones will never change. I'll be so straight and blind. The more we learn, the less we lose. We can run to the streets, defeat the enemies, or we can drown the city with freedom voices. If there was a dream we could have facing, we need it now Earthquake, my heart skipped a beat. Why they still bury their guilt and never feel sated? Walking off the things we once believed in. We can run to the streets, defeat the enemies, or we can drown the city with freedom voices. If there was a dream we could have facing, we need it now again. The more we share, the more we rise. The more we learn, the more we rise. We can run to the streets, defeat the enemies, or we can drown the city with freedom voices. If there was a dream we could have facing, we need it now again. We can run to the streets, defeat the enemies, or we can drown the city with freedom voices. If there was a dream we could have facing, we need it now again.
General Tire was born more than 100 years ago, right here in America. We've spent the last century tackling every kind of road this country has to offer, and especially the places without roads. So you know that with General Tire, anywhere is possible.
One fistful of bourbon.
doing that?
It ain't just a bourbon, it's a damn fistful.
There's nothing wrong with looking good. But when riding is your passion, it's performance that matters. Like having the off-road's most advanced suspension. It monitors input from driver and machine 200 times every second and automatically adjusts each shock to flatten corners, soak up the bumps, and handle the hazards. Confidence and control for those who live to ride. Polaris. Think outside.
Live from the virtual world of iRacing, we say good afternoon, race fans, and welcome to the 2021 General Tire Jim Beaver Esports eShort Course World Cup, presented by Fistful of Bourbon. We're happy to have you strapped into the virtual seat and along for the ride with us for this special presentation of iRacing on CBS Sports. We're alongside Tiffany Stone and Jim Beaver. My name is Evan Pasoko, and Jim, this goes all the way back to last year's World Cup, a handful of some of the biggest online simulated short course events anywhere in the world. Tonight, a great way to kick off 2021.
Yeah, you know, last year when the world kind of went into a period there for a month or two where not a lot was going on in the motorsports world, we decided, hey, off-road shut down, but let's bring it into the virtual world. iRacing had an amazing platform. We put together an event called the World Cup, invited a bunch of celebrities and some real-world drivers along with the best sim racers in the world. And lo and behold, everybody tuned in. Everybody loved it. We decided we wanted to do it again. Went to some of our partners like General Tire and Fistful of Bourbon, and here we are in CBS Sports. And, you know, I'm excited. And not only that, but just the racers and the racing. I'm excited to see how the industry's matured in a year.
Yeah, we're using laser scanned replicas of Pro 2 and Pro 4 trucks, along with a handful of different tracks. We'll be at 2 different ones this evening. And Tiffany, to the point that Jim made, my favorite part is the mix, right? There are real world drivers competing against sim pros. I think last year the drivers with all the sim time had a bit of an upper hand, but these real life guys have had a lot of time in the sim. So I think they've caught up to some of these sim races and are going to really give them a run for their money in today's 2 races.
No, you're exactly right. One guy that I'm looking forward to see is Ron Capps. Ron's been in this since May when we've been doing this, and I love everything about that. And I've actually had the pleasure of meeting Ron. So I'm really excited to see how he's going to do tonight, especially.
2 races on deck. It starts right here and right now. Qualifying is currently underway for the first of our 2 races. Points going to determine the champion at the end of the night, and it all starts right now for the Pro 2 trucks at Wild West Motorsports Park. Very different than what we'll see later this afternoon, Jim. But of course, sparks always fly in Sparks, Nevada. This is one of the most visually unique tracks in short course, and with the track layout to match it. Wild West features 4 turns, 2 of which are proper hairpins with 4 tabletop jumps and a massive drop-off after turn number 1. The rhythm section through turn 2, all designed to get these trucks into the air, and it is one of the funnest on the iRacing platform.
Yeah, you know, and that's the big thing about here in Sparks, Nevada, here at Wild West Motorsports Park. It's all about those elevation changes. A lot of short course are flat. You know, the tracks don't have a lot of elevation. This one actually built into the side of a mountain. You're going to see trucks get some of the most air they'll get anywhere in the country in short course right here. And I'm really excited to kick things off here in Reno.
Qualifying is underway. We have about 25 different drivers competing today. They are all on track, though, on their own at the moment. We are in the middle, and you see the top left-hand corner of your screen towards the end of a 10-minute single truck qualifying session. I touched on the points, Jim. Let's get right into that right off the bat. There is not just points for the winner of our 2 feature races. Points will be paid out to the top 5 in qualifying, so already a lot on the line.
Yeah, there is a lot on the line. And, one thing we do with the World Cup like we did last year is we try and make things really interesting. We throw drivers in a bunch of diverse different settings. They're going to run both Pro 2s and Pro 4s on the same night. It takes a completely different skill set to drive those trucks. And then we're going to invert the field. So if you're the fastest in qualifying, you want to be fastest. You want to get those points, but then it also kind of penalizes you once we go to the main event because you start all the way in the back. So there's a lot of strategy involved. Obviously, we've got that mandatory competition caution in the middle portion of the race that's going to restack and re-rack these drivers. But it's really interesting, the diverse set of circumstances these drivers are going to have to deal with, to around World Cup champion.
And talking about the real-world stars, we just saw Ron Capps on track, the NHRA champion, and now NASCAR legend Greg Biffle, who's a little bit overcooking it, I think, that time into turn number 1. As he tries to get his time down, these drivers can put down as many laps as they want. Sticking with the oval world, there's Landon Castle on track as well. And here's all the onboard looks with these drivers in their various sim rig setups at home. You can see a lot of the drivers using triple monitors. You can see that for Landon Castle, top left, top middle. That's Ron Capps using the VR goggles. If you're not familiar with sim racing, Jim, that is a whole world of possibilities on what you can do with your personal sim setup at home.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of different looks here. I do want to key in on the guy in the top right there, Rodrigo Ampudia. He's a real-world short star. This guy's won some of the biggest short course races in the world. He's here trying to do it in the virtual world, both him and his brother Alan, and it's going to be interesting to see how they fare against some of the top sim pros. But yeah, I love that. There's not a one-trick pony here with these short course or with iRacing in general. Everybody's got a different setup. Everybody's got a different sim rig. Everybody has their rig kind of tailor-made to their driving style. We're going to see which one works out best tonight.
The qualifying is done. Points have been handed out. We now invert your qualifying order and split them into 2. So let's take a look at the starting grid for heat race at number 1 here from the virtual Wild West Motorsports Park. So from the top to the bottom, so you can take a look at how they finished in the Q session. Points going to be awarded to Cam Peterson. That's 10 points right out of the gate. Brandon Proudfoot going to walk away with 8 points. 6 points going to go to Ambrosius. Luke Nutt going to get 4, and 2 bonus points go to Joe Lusk. So that is the order in which they finished, I should say, qualified. This is the invert now, so it'll actually be all the way at the bottom of your screen. These drivers, Ampudia, Lawrence, Castle, and Jeffrey, that are going to start at the front for this heat race. It will be a 10-lap heat with a competition to caution at the halfway point, so it does give these drivers, if they have some issues early in the race, to recover. But it also means if you're the leader and you get a lead early, Jim, that's not going to be safe, and these drivers get to get back on you at some point. This is also substantially smaller track than Crandon, where we're going a little bit later this afternoon, so expect a lot of beating and banging when you got 13 trucks out there at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's the key here. You're going to see a lot different racing at Crandon than you're going to see here. One, we're racing Pro 2s here, and at Crandon, we're going to be racing the Pro 4s. But, in a tight course like this, especially when we get to that main event with so many trucks on track, it's going to be a lot of beating and banging, and a bit of this is going to be survival here at Wild West Motorsports Park. Just get to the end.
And a lot of these drivers, the real-world pros, may know each other, but a lot of them have never raced with each other, right? Coming from so many different disciplines across the motorsports community. So they might not really know how to expect to race around some of these other drivers. So sim pros who faster in qualifying, generally speaking, going to be at the back, therefore, of this grid for heat race number 1 may have a better idea, but it's going to be fun to see them work their way through the field. One other thing to note before we roll, as you can see, they're all lined up behind the pace truck, is there is no elimination. So this is solely to figure out the starting order for that feature.
Yeah, no eliminations. I think that's going to make things really interesting. There's going to be a lot of strategy in play here, and obviously you want to get those points. But at the end of the day, once you snag all those points from winning the heats and winning the qualifier, you're going to start all the way in the back come main event time. So it's definitely an interesting set of circumstances here. Something different that a lot of these drivers have ever had, and not only in sim racing but in the real world. Looks like we're getting rolling here, and we're ready to go green flag racing.
There's a Locaine above the 1.5-mile, 4-turn virtual Wild West Motorsports Park. The iRacing.com official pace truck going to dive to the safety of the pit area this time through. Landon Castle on the front row, joined by that 36 of Rodrigo Ampudia, as you saw with the driver cams. 10 laps to set the grid and to award points towards the Pro 2 feature. Green flag at Wild West.
Well, looks like we've got one into the K-rail already. Definitely not the way you want to start out here.
That was Connor Parise, and now more drivers hung up through turn number 1. That's Ronnie Anderson and Alan Ampudia stuck together. So a rough start for 3 of your drivers towards the back of the grid. Meanwhile, at the front, we've got a new race leader out of the gate. How about the charge by the 36 of Rodrigo Ampudia? But for how long? Here's a challenge. Gary Green all over the inside and on 2 wheels down the backstretch.
Yeah, and watch Rodrigo Ampudia. I would call the race in the real world here a year and a half ago at this same track, and Rodrigo Ampudia took a massive win in Pro 2. So he is an actual winner in Pro 2 in the real world right here at this track. As he gets a little squirrely there, looks like going to collect the number 85 of Mikey Lawrence.
Not what he wanted. He goes from basically the race lead down to a battle between 3rd and 4th, just like that. Lap number 1 in the books. It was Gary Green from 6th on the starting grid to go to the race lead early. It looks like 1, 2, and 3 single file down a little bit, and then Mikey Lawrence is in a whole host of traffic. But you talk about the big movers. That's Josh Fox, one of the iRacers in these Pro 2s. He started back in position number 8 on the grid. Again, that is indicative of a better qualifying effort than the drivers who started up front, and his Williams Esports entry already up to 2nd, and he's putting the heat on the 21.
Yeah, Josh Fox, definitely one to watch. One of the top short course drivers in the world in iRacing. Another one I want to key in on too is Cam Peterson, our reigning World Cup champion. He's already moved his way up to 5th, and he was starting all the way in the back. So definitely one to watch as laps continue to click off here.
Impossible to think about eShort course and not mention Cam Peterson. That's him there. He swept the 2020 iteration of this eShort course World Cup. He won everything and is obviously the favorite coming into this one. He was fastest in practice and fastest in qualifying that gave him those early 10 bonus points, and he's going to storm in on the battle for 3rd. Puts a big slide on the 36, and I think Ampudia's hung up on a K-rail in turn number 2, so that'll take him out of this battle. And Peterson, who started at the very back in 13th spot, is now hunting down James Ambrosius for 3rd. An onboard look with the Landon Castle right-hand side of your screen. Funny to see somebody driving a Pro 2 truck, Jim, with a Formula rim on the sim rig, but that's him on the bottom right, top left, the virtual visor cam. You're seeing almost exactly what he sees.
And look at how those trucks just air down those big tabletops. You're going to see one of the biggest drop-offs in all of off-road here. Motocross styles, they come. They used to call this the ski jump, where the bottom just falls out of the trucks as they come down into this really tight hairpin corner where they're going to get all over the binders.
Two-wheel drive, full-size trucks built on a standardized chassis, 700 to 900 horsepower, 4,000 pounds. And they've been throwing that weight around up the road from Castle, who was in 11th. There's this group of trucks that he's been fighting with from about 8th position on back. You got Ronnie Anderson, Connor Parise, Joe Lusk, and others. They are about 10 seconds off of the battle for the race lead, but you wouldn't know it the way they're going at each other. So it goes to show how much everybody wants a spot. There are limited points to be paid out in this heat. Only the top 10 get bonus points, ranging from 25 to the heat race winner down to 1 point for P10. So top 10 is the points goal, and you're looking at the bubble of that right now with Lusk and Ampudia.
And I think these points are really going to be crucial as this plays out. Obviously, you've got heat points, qualifying points, main event points, and then we do it all over again at Crandon here later this evening. So, these drivers right now, they definitely want to grab every single point, because with so many points on the line, I think as things come down to the wire there at Crandon, every single one's going to count.
Is there a strategy between getting a decent enough finish in qualifying to get points, getting a decent enough finish in these heats, to also not go all the way to the back of the grid for the final race? Looking off in the back of the 11 at Connor Parise, he's in 8th position right now. Behind him is Joe Lusk, then Ampudia. Those are the drivers in the points at the moment. I should note that the 36 of Rodrigo Ampudia, who I mentioned was hung up on a K-rail, he's out of this race, and there's that beating and banging Lusk on the door that time, but he may open up the door for the 10 truck behind to get into the conversation. Also, left-hand side of your screen, you can see that Cameron Peterson now up to 3rd in the running order.
As we go on board here with Joe Lusk, looks like he's hunting down Connor Parise. Connor, he's an accredited, iRacer himself. I know he's been in the IRX World Championship. He's solid in short course. Definitely one of the most diverse dirt road drivers on the service. As we chance here to look at Lusk try and hunt down his Jim B. Resports teammate.
You can tell from the onboard shot, the right front of that truck is a little bit torn up, so he's had a few bits of contact over the course of this race. Up at the front of the field, though, Gary Green maintaining, currently working lap number 7 of 10. So he is stretching things out and certainly enjoying the advantage towards the front of the field. There's Josh Fox in 2nd, has started to close. Remember, we saw the 12 last time we checked in a handful of laps ago. It was much bigger of a disadvantage. And Cam Peterson in 3rd. There he is, lurking as well. If he wants another set of max points, again, he already got 10 for winning qualifying. He needs 25 if he wants to win this heat race. He only has a handful of laps to do it. The battle for the race lead up top and that battle for P9 on the bottom.
Yeah, and it looks like Josh Fox, he's just absolutely sending it right now in the hunt for green. As Cam Peterson's sitting back there, it looks like he's gained about a second the last 2 laps. So he's definitely narrowing that gap. I don't know if he's going to have enough time. I mean, both these drivers are really, really solid. So he's going to have his work cut out for him to get around that first spot to take the victory and take all those points home. But, Cam Peterson, if anybody can do it, it's him. But I don't know, he's going to have his work cut out for him.
The not-so-breaking news on my timing and scoring, fastest driver on track last lap was Cam Peterson with a 51.148. That was about 3/4 of a second better than Green and about a second faster than Josh Fox. But I don't know if he'll have enough time to do it. Meanwhile, on the bottom, Mikey Lawrence and Connor Parise doing battle. Now for 6th on track, but the trucks up at the front of the field just took lap number 9. Only 2 laps to go in Heat Race 1 from Wild West. Is that enough time for Peterson from 3rd to close? He may be hoping that Fox and Green come together here.
Yeah, Cam, it looks like he's sitting back and waiting. He's looking for a mistake by one of those top 2 drivers so he can sneak in and try and swipe a spot. He knows it's going to be a tough task to get around both Green and Fox here unless something happens, they get into each other. Right now it looks like Fox, he's putting a lot of pressure on Green. He's hunting for those points. Looks to be about, a 7-point difference between 1st and 2nd. So I know Josh Fox knows that, and he's trying to hunt him down as we go on board with Cam Peterson.
Heavily weighted in favor of the heat race winner. You mentioned that 7-point difference 1st to 2nd. The difference between 2nd and 3rd is only 3, so it pays big to win the heat race. Of course, well, then you have to start towards the back for the feature. White flag, final lap for heat race number 1. They're going to touch Peterson into Fox. A lot of contact for 2nd, and Peterson all the way around is going to lose a bunch of spots.
Wow, the veteran making a mistake there, Cam Peterson. Wow, I didn't see that one coming. He tucked his nose in there, looked like he had a shot. Josh Fox slamming the door on him and, got hung up there on the K-rail. We'll see where that's going to shuffle him back into the mix. But, rare miss by the veteran Cam Peterson.
Fox touched Green. That slowed him down. Peterson got into him, and Peterson falls to 4th in the running order. Up front, final quarter, and uncontested for the number 21 truck. 6th on the grid, leads the most laps, and 25 points to Heat Race 1 winner. It's Gary Green.
Wow, you got to give Green a lot of credit. He held a lot of pressure from Josh Fox all the way till the end. Never folded under the pressure, and he deserved that win.
You can see Mikey Lawrence in the number 9 spot coming around another one of the trucks that is showing some battle scars. That is the second to last points position. And behind him, Landon Castle will get 10th. Those drivers in the points for heat race number 1. The drivers that don't score points don't make it to the end. That'll be Lusk and Rodrigo Ampudia. We take a look, though, at your results for heat race 1. The point spread, top to bottom, 25 points, 18, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and 1 through your top 10. It's a big pickup for Gary Green.
Definitely a big pickup for Gary Green. And, I'm looking at this, and Cam Peterson down there in the 4th spot, it definitely cost him a few points, but he's going to have a little bit better starting point spot in this main event later on to come, too. So truth will be known later if that actually worked to Cam Peterson's benefit.
He'll get 12 points, I think, from 4th. You combine that with his qualifying points, he'll have 24. That is not enough to match the 25 that Green gets from winning the heat. So Green on top in that discussion for the moment. Already on the grid for heat race number 2. Again, this is the other half of the invert from qualifying. So Bucky Lasek will start this one from the top of the board after no queue time. We saw Greg Biffle, his issues in qualifying. It'll let him a spot on the outside of the front row. Look at all the real world stars here. Action Sports star Travis Pastrana side by side with Ron Capps on row number 2, Sean Stratton and Parker Kligerman through the top 6.
Yeah, then we've got Bobby Rafferty, Holden Heitritter, Trenton Briley, Dave Bodio, Connor Berry. Connor, one of the quickest kids on the iRacing services as well. Luke Knupp was a winner at Crandon earlier on, or I should say late last year. So some heavy hitters in this one. Going to be interesting to see how these real-world stars shake out with these sim pros.
What we saw in that first 10-lap feature told me that the track position definitely helps. But if you look at the starting position of your top 5 finishers, right? So 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, they started 6th, 8th, 12th, 13th, and 10th on the grid. So the invert is going to make it more difficult. But what I learned is that speed can conquer all. Now, of course, a 10-lap dash at a track like this, Jim, is not a long race. Of course, the feature going to be a little bit longer coming up next after this one as we go racing for 15 laps in that final. The final will feature that mid-race caution break, but it is short. I don't think not short enough to make it impossible for those trucks in the back. So the big thing I'm going to look for, we saw the chaos on the start. We saw turn 1 have an incident last race. Those guys in the back, if they want a chance, they need to survive the first couple of corners, the first couple of laps until there's a bit of spacing, and then I think they can get the work done.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I think there's a lot of patience involved here. You want to push early, because you see everybody bunched up. But when you get into that bunched up group, that's when the bumping happens. You can do a lot of damage to your truck, and it can cost you the entire event. We saw Rodrigo Ampudia do that early on. Pushed heavy the first lap and ended up getting taken out and shuffled all the way to the back. So should be interesting to see the strategy played here. I think we've got a lot of drivers here, though, that are going to absolutely send it. And, I don't know if there's going to be any patience involved.
Well, they know that they have to get out of the gate early. Pace truck off and away over the jump, and now we are at full speed. Green flag, heat race number 2. The dive to the first hairpin. How about 4, 5 wide? Biffle spins towards the rear. Now 3 wide, side by side for the race lead, as it's Lasek still in front, Pastrana to the outside.
Yeah, Lasek and Pastrana, they've banged doors in rallycross in the real world, so, they no strangers to each other. Looks like Cap's getting squirrely, Lasek going over, Cap's going over. Wow, Pastrana getting taken out. It's chaos here as the 5-1-2 that is Holden Heitritter, he benefits from all this.
One of the sim pros, Brandon Proudfoot, flipping a couple of barrel rolls that time from getting involved in that mess. His night comes to an early end. It'll give him a good spot, though, for the feature, but no points available for him after he started at the back and was involved. And it all started in turn number 2. Pastrana, Lasek, they kind of got moved up and out of the way. You saw Capps go over the 81, nearly flipped it, and through all of that, it's Holden Heitritter from 8th to 1st in just the opening lap. Trenton Briley goes to 2nd, and now it's Sean Stratton and Dave Bodio fighting for 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, and the guys with the patience, it ended up benefiting here. And, even a guy like Greg Biffle looked like he spun, but he stayed really outside in that first corner and let some of the chaos happen below him. And, he's, in ninth. He's in a point-scoring position right now. So, patience definitely going to be a virtue here as we work our way through Wild West Motorsports Park and head to Crandon later tonight. But right now, it's all about holding Heitritter out front. But Stratton getting a little pressure there from the 18. So we're gonna see a great battle here with Dave Bodio chasing down that number 72 of Stratton for the third spot.
Enjoying that ride on board down the front stretch. The 72 going to open up the door. Bodio to the bottom, but he'll get tagged and turned around. That was Connor Berry into the back of the 016 of Bodio. Spins him out. That's going to hurt both of those trucks. Took them about 15 seconds to get off of each other. And just like that, they fall down to 7th and 8th in the running order. And it takes a bit of that stress off of the 72 machine right there of Sean Stratton. So now he has about a 3-second buffer to the next closest truck. And up the road, the battle for the heat race lead is heating up because Briley closing in on the back of the 512 truck as Heitritter comes to complete lap 3.
Yeah, it looks like that 1 and 2, they've got a pretty big gap over Stratton in the number 72 and third spot. It looks a little bit, about 2.5 second gap, I believe, here as they make their way through that sharp hairpin corner. So we're going to see if Stratton's got a little something there as our two leaders tending to check out as we get a glimpse here at some of the action early on.
Here's where we saw the side-by-side with Pastrana on the outside, and it was Bucky Lassick at the bottom. But right there, the send by the 512 of Heitritter is what kicked all of that chaos off. And then watch this, Ron Capps across the track. He flips upside down and over. And then there was another flip in there by Brandon Proudfoot that took him all the way out of this race. So Heitritter, that charge from 8th to 1st, wasn't necessarily a graceful charge. He moved his way through the field there in turn number 2, and I thought he was going to have to hold his breath because Briley was all over him. The difference at the start-finish line, though, about 0.6 of a second. It's not a comfortable gap, but he is holding over that 17 truck for the moment.
Yeah, he's definitely holding over the 17, but the 17, I feel like he's sitting back. He's got 5 laps to go. He's kind of stalking him. He's sitting back. He's looking at the openings, knows he's got half a race left to try and make this pass. So it's going to be interesting to see when he makes the move. Oh, it looks like, the 5-1-12 of Heitritter, feeling a little pressure going up on the K-rail there.
A little bit too close on the inside. You can see he hiked the left front of that truck up and didn't look like it hurt him that much, but goes to show that he's pushing it a little bit further back in the field. Luke it up, and Parker Kligerman doing battle for 5th and 6th position on track. It up started in 12th, but has driven his way through the field. And look at Parker, the lean scientifically helps the truck rotate through the corner. Maybe not as much as he wanted, though. He is on the K-rail on the front straightaway. You could see, just based on looking at his webcam, Jim, it was not rotating in turn 4 like he wanted to. And once he clipped the K-rail with the right-hand side of that truck, he hiked it up, and he will fall out of a battle for 5th, and Kligerman all the way to the rear of the field there.
Yeah, it looked like Kligerman, his lean didn't quite help him so much.
He needed more lean.
Couldn't get that weight transfer going with the truck in his sim seat there. But, Kligerman, I got to give him a lot of credit. There in the 5th spot, I know he hadn't really done much off-road trucks, but this event popped up. He spent 2 weeks in the sim, got pretty quick, and stoked to have him out here. We'll see him later on in this main event. But right now, we're taking a look. That is the 16.
As Bodio started 10th, a little bit of pocket here, a little bit of spacing. He is trying to chase down Luke Knupp up the road, but again, that 77 and up is really impressed with a very good start to this race. Again, what did we say on the grid? I think clearing a bit of chaos was going to be important. That's exactly what he did for the most part. Didn't end up on his lid. I think that was the minimal bar that was set off to the top in this one. Looking off to the back of your race leader, Holton Heitritter, working lap number 7 of 10 late in this race. Sean Stratton has fallen back from the battle for the race lead in 3rd. It is very clearly a 2-truck race at the moment. This time by 3 laps to go.
3 laps to go. Really been hunting down Heitritter for a good 2-3 laps now. as we go down. It looks like he might have got a little fender on his rear fender. I got to give him a lot of credit. Briley driving this thing, and he wants to make a clean pass here. And he knows, as we talked earlier, there is a 7-point difference between that first and second spot, a full 7 points. That is worth sending it into one of these corners and, kind of throwing a Hail Mary. 7 points is going to be a lot as things wrap up here, Wild West here after the main event. So he really wants to try and narrow that gap and try and get those crucial points at some point as this thing winds down.
We took a look with Parker Clearman a little bit ago, and that's one of the real-world stars that has a lot of sim experience, but Tiffany touched on this right off at the top, that so does Ron Capps, and he's using the VR goggles in the bottom right. So when we say that visor cam up top is almost exactly what he sees, it's literally almost exactly what he sees. If he turns his head to the right, he'll look to the right in the sim to see alongside him. A lot of drivers love the immersive experience that those VR goggles give, and he, after a bit of a rough start, running P9 right now.
Yeah, and talking about Ron Capps, I know we've talked about it in other broadcasts, but, here's a guy who does 320 miles an hour for a living. And a lot of people think he can only go in a straight line, but he's also raced Chili Bowl. On the sim, in the sim, he's always, racing in various different disciplines. I mean, he's a well-rounded driver, and I think him being one of the best drag racers in the world, sometimes people forget he can actually wheel other things in addition to a funny car.
I'm not sure there's many cars left on the iRacing service that Ron hasn't driven. He has been one of the most enthusiastic drivers. As you mentioned, the way that all of this eShort course started is when Real World Racing came to a pause early to middle of last year. And even to this point, still very active on the platform. White flag in the air, though, for heat race number 2, and Height Raider's been able to open things up a little bit towards the front of the field. Briley trying to close back in. There's some lap traffic up the road. Curious if Greg Biffle's going to be an unintentional factor in this. He runs in P8 at the moment. Down to the final corner, though, he should stay clear and out in front. And with the battle scars to prove it on both the trucks, first and second, Height Raider with the advantage through the final corner. He'll come down the hill, and he'll net his first points of the night, 25 points. It's your Heat 2 winner, Holden Height Raider.
Looks like now we've got a battle here for 6. That's Bodio in the 16 there. Looks like we've got Barry here in the 528 trying to hunt him down. Not going to be enough. It looks like he almost endos there off tabletop. You got to love sim racing where you can just send it with no consequences.
I don't think he lifted over the hill there at the end of the race. It hurt the front end of that truck off. Good thing there's no check that comes with it. Here's a look at your results for heat race number 2. Again, points distributed through the top 10, but the biggest to Height Raider, 25 for the heat race win, 18 to Briley for second. You got Stratton, Rafferty, and Cadup through the top 5. Bodio, Barry, Biffle, Capps, and Kligerman, the top 10. All those drivers able to walk away with a little bit of points. Pastrana, Lassick, and Proudfoot. Chaos for those drivers off of the start. They don't get any heat race points, but they will get prime real estate on the massive feature race grid, and the feature pays twice as many points as any of these other races do. So the field now set for the Pro 2 feature from Wild West. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. You're watching the General Tire eShort Course World Cup presented by Fistful of Bourbon.
Born for competition. Perfected on the racetrack. For whatever your road looks like. With General Tire, anywhere is possible.
There's a place where fire and flavor are celebrated, where grilling traditions and new techniques are perfected. Here in Big Green Egg Country, you can grill it, roast it, smoke it, or bake it. It's the most versatile grill you'll ever own. Simple to light, easy to use, comes with a free lifetime warranty. Have it delivered to your door by a certified dealer in your community and start enjoying the ultimate cooking experience. Shop online for home delivery at biggreenegg.com. That's biggreenegg.com.
And back live from the virtual Wild West Motorsports Park, where this special presentation of iRacing on CBS Sports continues. Well, both heat races done in the Pro 2 portion of tonight's coverage, and we are ready for the Pro 2 feature. We're alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Jim Beaver and Tiffany Stone. And Tiffany, I'll go to you first on this one, being able to take in all the action. We've seen plenty of these eShort course races over the last year here on the service, but that was a really physical one, and curious if that's going to be an indication of how the rest of the afternoon goes.
Yep, take over.
Yeah, it looks like we're having a few technical difficulties there, but yeah, it's it's going to be interesting to see the way that the stage is set here, Evan, for for this main event, because we've got some guys like Pastrana who are no stranger to the sim. They're going to be starting up front. We've got some guys like Cam Peterson we expected to start all the way in the back. Now, Cam Peterson, he's going to be starting a little bit towards the middle here. So we've got some interesting storylines that are kind of shaping up for this very first main event of this doubleheader here with the Pro 2s.
Well, the big thing that I'm looking at is, those heat races were chaotic enough with 13 trucks. We mentioned that there were no eliminations, right? So all 26 drivers advanced to this feature. It's a little bit of a longer race. We go from 10 laps to 15 laps in length for the feature, and there will be that competition caution at halfway to group the field up, Jim. But I don't know if it's possible to fit 26 trucks off it into turn number one. I know you mentioned we saw a couple of the drivers sending it off some of the jumps post-race, and the beauty of the sim is you tear up the virtual truck. There's no check associated with that. That also means that when you're sending 26 trucks off it into the first corner, there isn't a lot of fear in the process. So we may see some very bold moves. There are a lot of the points on the line in these features. The win pays out 50 towards the points.
Well, and speaking of bold moves, looks like we've got a replay of the start from Heat 2, which, like you said, we're going to have double the amount of trucks on the grid this go-around. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers survive this lap one, this turn one and turn two chaos here with the Pro 2s at Wild West Motorsports Park. As you see, Biffle gets a little squirrely, and all of a sudden the domino effect happens behind him. And a lot of drivers bumping and banging. Then we head into this turn two, and you saw Lassick and Pastrana both get turned sideways, along with Ron Capps. And it's just it's going to be a lot of trucks on this short track, Evan. I know once we get to Crandon, things will sort itself out. It's almost a 2-mile track, but here at Reno, where it's less than 1 mile, that's a lot of trucks and a tight amount of space.
Yeah, the big house, I think, will give us a little bit more room. To that point, this is one of the smaller tracks of those on the iRacing service, and you thought that looked, crowded even from high above. Just picture double the amount of trucks in it when we do it now for the feature. They're just coming down to the end of a 5-minute warm-up session, Jim. Obviously, the points are weighted in favor of finishing up front, but if you want to earn points in qualifying or earn points in a heat race, you give up track position for the feature. So I'm really interested to see what those sim pros towards the back are going to be able to do in this main event, because this is where you can win or lose this race, right? I mean, we're going to take points from the Pro 2s and the Pro 4 later on. You can't, I don't think, win it now, but you could definitely lose it if you get no points.
Yeah, and that's the key here. They've got to be very patient. They know that there's going to be that competition caution in the middle. So they're going to get a shot to regroup, and they're going to get another shot at the leaders. So, you got to be patient the first couple of turns. We know it's going to be chaotic. We've seen it in the heat races. So they really want to, kind of walk through and pick their way through, not get really aggressive early on. I think they're going to have to let the first lap really kind of play itself out. Then they're going to be able to drop the hammer. They're really going to be able to make up some ground. They're going to be able to pick off some of the drivers, and they're really going to have to wait for that competition caution. Then when things get regrouped, hopefully they can be about halfway through the field. Then it's off and racing for the second half of this race. I'm excited. It's going to be an all-out slugfest here. Tight quarters. We're going to see who's the best of the best in a Pro 2 right now.
And it's easy enough to go into with a game plan on your own when somebody hits you from behind. All bets are off. Let's take a look at your starting grid for the Pro 2 feature from Wild West Motorsports Park. So again, an invert of the heat race finishing results. So Brandon Proudfoot going to find himself out at the top. Bucky Lasik slated for second, but he will have it into the longest line of penalty and to go to the rear. Rodrigo Ampudia, Travis Pastrana on row number 2 with Joe Lusk and Parker Kligerman through row 3.
And then we've got Landon Castle and Ron Capps. We got Mikey Lawrence, trophy truck racer, along with Greg Biffle. Alan Ampudia, Baja champion there, along with Connor Berry.
And continuing on through, you got the likes of Connor Parise and Dave Bodio through the top 14. Anderson, Nutt, Sant, and Rafferty, but big names towards the rear. Your defending eShort Course World Cup winner from 2020, Cameron Peterson, back in 19th position. And of course, we mentioned Gary Green, who walked away with big money points by winning his heat race. That was an instant 25-point cash out. He is all the way at the rear in 25th position. That is a lot of trucks ready to go racing. Again, 15 laps of competition caution at halfway, and more drivers than points paying positions.
More drivers than points paying positions. This is a lot of trucks, probably the most we've ever seen here at Wild West Motorsports Park. It's going to be interesting to see what happens as, looks like we got one of our drivers pulling off there, backing it up a little bit.
I think that's going to be an EUL. I knew Bucky Lasik had one. I think Proudfoot also going to get one for not completing enough laps in the heat. So that is to prevent anybody from sandbagging for a good spot on the grid. They were in wrecks, though, but still, end of the longest line. They go to the rear. So your front row is now Rodrigo Ampudia to the inside, and the 199 at Travis Pastrana on the outside as we say, let's go racing from Wild West.
Rodrigo Ampudia, no stranger to this track. We're going to see what he can do out front. And Travis Pastrana on the 199. Look at them avoid that chaos and carnage there. A lot of bumping and banging. Doesn't look like anybody got spun around quite yet. Don't want to say that too early. It looks like that is, I believe, Connor Berry there in the CBR truck bumping and banging there. And Ron Capps up on the bike. We've got, that's Capps up and over.
That's the second time he's been on his lid before turn number 3 in these races. And I saw Pastrana was real aggressive with the push. There's Landon Castle at another flip more towards the rear as Castle going to be door banging side by side and battling with Travis Pastrana for second and third. Further down the road, they cycle out and to the top of the board in this one, and ahead of all of the chaos, how about Joe Lusk? He is home free after lap 1.
Yeah, Joe Lusk somehow managed the madness here, and he's got the entire track to himself at this point. It looks like we've got Parker Kligerman, I believe, on the hunt there. But man, look at Lusk. I don't know how he survived that. I don't know how any of these drivers did at this point. But you got to give him a lot of credit there because it is nothing but clean sailing for now. But the key here is there's so many trucks on track, Evan, that they're going to get into lap traffic really quick.
And one thing I'm noticing that is a big development is that Cameron Peterson is in the pits. Your defending champion from 2020, in which he won everything, the heats, the features, and all that. He is to the pits early in this Pro 2 feature. I said you can't win it now, but you could certainly lose it. There is a huge amount of points that Peterson is going to miss out on here, and that may end his hopes of repeating before they even began.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the way that plays out. As Heiritter, he's got his elbows out tonight. We saw that in the heat races, and we're seeing it again. A lot of bumping and banging out of Heiritter. It's going to be interesting to see if there's any retaliation at some point. But that 512 truck, look at
we got a few of them.
Got one of the Ampudia trucks. That's Travis Pastrana, the 199 there.
And upside down is Rodrigo Ampudia on his lid. So that was about 3 trucks that got hooked together and couldn't get off. And that's as good of a segue as any to get Tiffany Stone back into the conversation. And to the point that I made when we came back for the start of this feature was that we were curious if those aggressive heats were going to be kind of indicative of what we'd see in this feature. And it has lived up to the tail of the tape, a lot of physicality.
No, I completely agree with you. I think everything is going really, really well right now. The 3 wide, the 4 wides, that's what really gets me. And being able to see Parker Kligerman get it up into second, especially after what he went through, I really feel like a lot of them were just understanding the track, understanding how many trucks are there. When you have, over 20 plus trucks on this, anything could happen. One little turn this way, one little turn that way, and it all comes together, and it seems like it did for Parker.
And another beauty about sim racing as we go on board here back in traffic with Sean Stratton is that, Jim, he doesn't cost the practice. So I'm sure there's some drivers in here who have, maybe 50 laps of practice or so. There's probably others that have close to 50 hours knowing that this is a big event and they want to win it, right? So it is certainly paying off, but nothing can prepare you for when you go out there and race with 24 other trucks on your door.
Yeah, well, and that's the truth. We saw it with Cam Peterson. I mean, he's the fastest in the world. He has all the track records. Everybody, by and large, respects him as the top eShort course driver in the world. And here he is in the pits, and he's out, and it's a tough break for Cam Peterson. But like you said, you can be really great all by yourself, but when you mix in, 24 trucks on the same track, a lot can happen, as we saw heat race winner there, Gary Green, now up and over.
Gary Green was maybe one of the closest drivers, if not the overall points leader coming into this after he won his heat, but he just got turned there by Sean Stratton. You can drop Gary Green down to 20th. That is the last points paying position. And Tiffany was talking about Parker Kligerman. Well, there's the look off of the back of him in second. He is under fire by Connor Berry. So far, they keep it clean. It's a battle that's about 2 seconds off of the race leader, Joe Lusk, closing in on that midway yellow. Berry's going to cross him up into turn number 2, but so far they stay off each other.
Yeah, you get that on board with Parker, and he's got his lean going on. I love that. That's something we're going to have to ask him about later on. But he's got one of the drivers leaning on him pretty hard right now. That's Connor Berry. One of those, looks like he's trying to get a fender on him under one of these corners and see if he can sneak his way in there. But Parker, he's an NASCAR driver in the real world. He's used to bumping and banging a bit.
You can see he's very active as well, talking with his crew or his spotter. I'm sure he's got a whole host of buddies in the sim with him. It's not just these drivers. They can have a real-life spotter or team communications like you would in real-life competition. And at that moment, caution. You can see the ticker, top left corner of your screen, has turned yellow. So that is our competition caution for this Pro 2 feature race. So we will slow things down, and that nice comfy 2+ second advantage that Joe Lusk had that we were talking about is going to fall away. They'll race to catch up to the iRacing official pace truck, and we'll basically have about a 7-lap sprint race or so, depending on how long it takes to get these guys wrangled in. 25 started, 19 of them are still on the lead lap at this moment. And they do have the ability, we talk about the uniqueness of sim racing, Jim, is they can come in and get a fast repair. So some of the drivers towards the back of the field that may have been damaged, iRacing can turn those off. So with a lot of official competition, if your truck's damaged or if your car's damaged, whatever you're racing, you can't just magically fix it. You got to sit in the box and let it get fixed. Time accordance with the damage. But at least here, drivers with issues can get them fixed up pretty quickly, Tiffany.
No, I agree with that. And some people that we're going to look at beyond that is going 5 and below. Ronnie Anderson. Ronnie Anderson is a pro driver, and I love seeing what he can do out here. He's been in a handful of races before, and what's so great about this is, a lot of these drivers that are not sim drivers, the pro drivers, have raced on this particular track and later on going into a Pro 4 as well. But with this one specifically, there's a lot of great turns, and being able to really read that, and like you said, your spotter is going to be a definite key in this, especially in the second half of the race.
And it's short, right? I mean, in theory and on paper, it's a 15-lap race, Jim. In reality, it's more like 2 6-lap sprints. So we talk about there being more time than those heats. This is your opportunity, right? You close in, but that chaotic start, it's going to repeat itself right now.
Yeah, you know, and it's definitely going to be repeating itself. We're single file now instead of side by side, but we're definitely going to have a little chaos in turn 1 and turn 2. These drivers know this is the last chance. There's no more cautions. You know, if that leader, you know, stretches his gap, it's going to be really tough to catch him after this. So I think we're going to see maybe Parker Kligerman try and put a move there on Lusk. You know, Parker's been very patient, sitting there in the second spot. I can see him pushing Lusk, and you know, we can't count out Connor Berry or Ampudia there in the 4th spot. This is Alan Ampudia, you know, who may make a move there as well. So, you know, it's going to be really interesting here as we go to green flag.
You know, 10 points for the fastest time in qualifying is nice. 25 points for winning your heat race is nice. But you want to know what's better than both of those? 50 for winning a feature. That is the payout for a feature race win. 40 to second, 35 to third. There's your on board with that 10 of Alan Ampudia. Started 11th up to 4th position. One of the bigger movers. As the lights on the pace truck are out, we will spread things out. We'll set them up 2 by 2, and we will do it again. So Lusk going to have the inside advantage of that run down to turn number 1. Kligerman on his outside. It's Berry, Ampudia, and Parise inside of the top 5. And there's his brother, who's had a bit of a night to forget, 1 lap down, back in position number 20 thus far. That's the final points paying position. Pace truck going to set sail. Field in the hands of Joe Lusk. It's a restart. 6 laps to go.
They're going to go up into this really tight turn number 1. We're going to start seeing them drift out wide. Drivers going to be leaning on each other there. Looks like Lusk going to get through clean. Ampudia through. Looks like Kligerman going to drop 2 spots there as Connor Berry gets by him.
How about some 5 wide, a spin towards the back as a couple of trucks got turned. More spins now as Trenton Briley is on his lid and barrel rolling into turn number 3. So the chaos off of the restarts continues, but you said it there. Big winner is going to be Connor Berry, who ends up in 2nd. Alan Ampudia goes to 3rd. Kligerman's in 4th, and a great battle behind those 2 for 5th.
Yeah, we've got Proudfoot now up into the 5th spot there, it looks like. And, you know, he was one that, you know, had to go all the way to the back of the grid for the start of this main event. So, you know, he's moved up some 15 spots at this point, 15, 20 spots to get where he's at. So you got to give him a lot of credit. You know, he's driving a strong race.
A spin towards the back. I saw Connor Parise just get turned, and here's 2 of the drivers in this battle. Parker Kligerman and Alan Ampudia. The 77 to Kligerman doing the chasing right now, as it looks like Parker a bit more concerned with maybe what's behind him than what's in front, because I saw a big send by Brandon Proudfoot into 1. There's about a truck length and a half difference between those 2, but you can see Proudfoot's 22 right there. Again, throwing it into the bottom. Bit of a shot into the door. Doing everything he can to rough up that 77 to get on him. They're all over each other down the front stretch.
Yeah, and you got to love this, you know, this in-car here. We've got, you know, you've got Parker Kligerman, a NASCAR driver. You got Alan Ampudia there, a Baja champion. I mean, how many disciplines can you mix a real-world NASCAR driver and a Baja champion from a year ago into the same race? I love this, you know, and both of them running strong in the top 5.
One of my favorite things I think about the sim is you can see some beating and banging up the road in a battle for the lead, because the 5-2-8 of Connor Berry looking to the outside on Lusk for the lead is, you know, all these drivers can likely drive the cars they drive in real life, these crossover stars, if they want, in a very professional setting. But a lot of the appeal is you can get out there and drive whatever you want. The 14, the 512, that's Heitritter and Ambrosius all over each other. But as we look to the front, it is a new race leader off at turn 4. Connor Berry to the race lead with 3 laps left to go.
Wow, you know, and you got to give this guy credit. You know, he's had to battle his way all the way up there. Lusk, you know, one of the sim pros. Connor Berry, I would consider him borderline sim pro at this point. He also drives a lot of you know, off-road trucks and short course in the real world. But you know, to get around a veteran like Lusk, you know, you got to give him a lot of credit. That is not an easy task.
And here's the slide, because Lusk does not want him to get away, throwing it to the bottom. But unlike some of the other battles, they've kept it clean. Maybe a slight touch that time off of 1. but Lusk has not resorted to putting the bumper to him yet. Big difference between the 50 points for the feature race win and the 40 that come for finishing in second. But Lusk really going to lose some time. That time off of 4. Now 2 laps to go. The battle for third starting to draw in just a little bit. Proudfoot third and Pudia fourth. No change with the Parker. Kligerman still P5.
Yeah, Kligerman's still there in P5. Barry out front, getting hunted by Lusk. Got Proudfoot now into the third spot. Lusk and Proudfoot, couple of teammates here. Maybe we're going to see a little action here with the teammates. Looks like Lusk there getting into the fender there. Connor Barry just let him know it was there enough to upset the truck that Lusk could slip by. We're going to see if Connor Barry's got a little something to come back and get around the Lusk again.
Going to try and behind them. I thought I saw the 48 of Peterson in a battle, but it was not for a position. Remember, he was forced to pit road. Peterson is a lap down in 17th. That's big in the storyline for the points. Here's the move to the bottom, side by side for second, looking for the white flag in the Pro 2 feature. Proudfoot, he's got the position. Does it work?
All the way to the bottom. It looks like he just slipped by Barry. He's going to slam the door. It looks like he's going to try and pinch Barry off there. Barry going to go all the way back down to the bottom now with Lusk and Proudfoot.
And for the lead now, contact with Joe Lusk, who opened up the door 3 wide for the race lead.
Wow, this is some good racing there as Proudfoot dropping all the way to the bottom now, trying the outside-inside as he clips the K-rail, almost goes up on the bike. Connor Barry trying to out-drag race Lusk to this next corner.
2-horse race, 1 corner to go. And inside, Joe Lusk gonna put the slide and shuts the door on Connor Barry. Proudfoot gonna move in. They'll beat and bang for second, but up at the front, Joe Lusk survives to win the Pro 2 feature at Wild West.
Wow, what a shootout there in that last lap. Proudfoot, Barry, Lusk, 3-truck race, going 3 wide at times. What an amazing bit of action there to cap off, I guess, our first main event of the evening.
All the way through 14th, battling to the start-finish line. That was Trenton Briley who's in the catch fence after the race, just beating out Connor Parise. 14th and 15th were about 20 seconds off of the battle for the lead, and there it is. Joe Lusk was very comfortable at the white flag, but it got a little bit dicey real quick. He holds on, gets the 50 points. Connor Barry, Brandon Proudfoot, Alan Ampudia, and Luke Cadup, your top 5 finishers, going to get the max points. Kligerman in P6, along with Ronnie Anderson, Bobby Sant Jr., James Ambrosius, and Holton Heitritter.
And one of the kind of impressive things about this top 10 is you've got a mix of sim pros. You've got a mix of real-world off-road drivers, and you've got a mix of crossover drivers with a guy like Parker Kligerman. It's really an interesting, diverse, set of drivers.
And let's hand things off to Tiffany Stone, who's standing by and talking with your Pro 2 feature race winner, Joe Lusk.
A big congratulations to you, Joe. Obviously, there was a back and forth for first, second, third, all of that carnage. Walk us through what you saw for this entire race.
Oh man, it was pretty clear at the beginning after, the turn 2 kind of pile up a little bit, everybody rubbing fenders a little bit, but then kind of got out to a lead. And then, after that competition caution, I saw Connor behind me and I knew he was pretty good. And just battling back and forth with him was pretty exciting. And then I saw Proudfoot coming and I was like, I know he got an end of line penalty at the beginning. I was like, how did he get back up here? Oh my goodness, how am I supposed to manage this? And then just kind of all out back and forth racing there at the end. It was a lot of fun.
And talking about managing a few things, was there any turn out there or anything that gave you a little bit of trouble, but you figured it out through laps after laps?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not the best at these cars in this track by far. And I think, there's times where I got a little bit tight going through one and then also going through the final corner there. And, just doing a lot of laps, especially as the track starts to wear, it kind of changes how you have to drive. And at the beginning, just when I think I'm learning how to do it one way, then the track kind of goes away and I have to start doing it another way. So it was kind of a give and take all race, but just trying to adapt to those conditions is all you got to do.
Awesome. Well, you definitely adapted. You capitalized on other people's mistakes. A big congratulations for taking that top spot.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
That is your Pro 2 feature race winner. Joe Lusk going to walk away with the big haul of 50 points for the Pro 2 feature win. That'll certainly bode well for the combined points championship that'll eventually determine our General Tire eShort Course World Cup presented by Fistful of Bourbon champion. We'll step aside and we'll head out to Crandon International Raceway next. More coverage of iRacing on CBS Sports is next.
General Tire was born more than 100 years ago, right here in America. We've spent the last century tackling every kind of road this country has to offer, and especially the places without roads. So you know that with General Tire, anywhere is possible.
One fistful of bourbon.
Who's doing that?
It ain't just a bourbon, it's a damn fistful.
Are you tired of searching all over the internet for that perfect set of wheels for your ride? Then download the all-new Vision It app from Vision Wheels. The all-new Vision It augmented reality app lets you preview hundreds of Vision wheels on your vehicle in a matter of seconds. Just download the app, select your wheel of choice, and share photos of your vehicle via social media or email. It's the Vision It app, new from Vision Wheel.
This special presentation of iRacing on CBS Sports continues from the West Coast now as we head to America's Dairyland for the second half of tonight's coverage of this General Tire eShort Course World Cup presented by Fistful of Bourbon. So Pro 2 trucks in their feature race already come and gone as we welcome you back into the iRacing booth. Evan Pasoko along with Jim Beaver and Tiffany Stone. Now we flip to the second half. But before we talk Pro 4, before we talk Crandon, let's put a bit of a bow tie on how this one started, Jim, in a wild, I think, portion altogether, but certainly a wild feature race that came down to the final corner.
Well, it definitely came down to the final corner. And, I think that's one of the fun things about that last race is it was Pro 2s, which they don't have a lot of traction. And, you've got that nice, tight, compact track. And it lends itself to, I like to call UFC of off-road, where it's really a slugfest. It's a battle. You got to fight for every single inch. And then on the flip side, now we move to Crandon, where it's Pro 4s with a lot of traction. You've got almost a 2-mile track and the most exciting turn in all of motorsports. So you want to talk about two completely diverse, set of conditions? That's what we've got here today.
Ever since 1970, the town of Crandon has been home to the World Championship Off-Road Races, short course off-road racing's premier event on Labor Day weekend. And after running on a course that was more than 25 miles, Crandon International Raceway was soon built. It's ever since served as short course's answer to the likes of Daytona and Indianapolis. With a 1.5-mile full course layout, Crandon's elevation changes, high-flying jumps to the final hairpin corner have produced more than their fair share of dramatic finishes over the year. And it is a very different challenge from what we saw in the opener of course, at the much shorter Wild West Motorsports Park. You can see how it's built into the landscape, significantly longer in length as well, double the amount of corners, and it's going to get tight in the turns. But again, longer laps also means that these drivers more opportunity to make mistakes, more opportunity to make up and or lose time. And Tiffany, even though this is in the virtual world, these are tracks that you've been to as well. Very different challenge here for the second half.
No, I completely agree with you. What's really interesting is infamous turn 1. You're hitting speeds that are unthought of. And what I love so much about it is, like you said, there's so many different turns. And especially when you get to that back straightaway and you're looking through there, and then you have many, many different challenges throughout the elevations like you were talking about. But what I love about all of this is just like Jim was saying, 1.8 miles. This track is a great track, and it's really going to showcase how the drivers are going to change with so many different trucks out there.
We talk about the inverts, right? So qualified, which is happening right now on track, is going to pay points. We'll invert, go through 2 heat races, invert again for the feature. Same rules apply as what we saw in the Pro 2 portion. We should mention anytime you come to Crandon, Jim, of course, the big caveat that the starts here, unlike anything else you'll see.
Well, yeah, it's a land rush start, and obviously we saw there at the last race where everybody's going side by side 2 at a time. I mean, this is a land rush start. It is an absolute free-for-all. It's a drag race into that infamous turn number 1. And turn number 1, I got to tell you, you're going to see trucks 5, 6 wide. They're going in at 130, 140 miles an hour. And it is the most exciting turn in all of motorsports. I truly mean that. I've been able to witness it in person. Tiffany's been able to witness it in person. I got to tell you, if you are a motorsports fan and you haven't seen Crandon turn number 1 Pro 4s on Labor Day weekend, you haven't lived yet.
We are taking a look live now with open qualifying. So as we mentioned, same rules apply to the Pro 2 half of the program. Everybody is on track at the same time right now, but the cool thing about sim racing is we don't all have to take turns. They're all out there individually and on track for themselves, although all running concurrent with one another. And of course, we talked about the changes from going for our first venue to Wild West Motorsports Park over here to the Crandon International Off-Road Raceway. The second half of that conversation, Jim, is now in these Pro 4 trucks, 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive. And what are else some of the differences between the trucks that'll maybe mix up how these drivers have to approach this?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a mix, and most of the drivers prefer the Pro 4s. There's a lot more traction. I don't want to say they're a little bit easier to drive because both of the trucks are definitely difficult to drive, but the Pro 4s definitely have a lot more traction and a lot more speed, and you can make a mistake and still recover. The Pro 2s, we saw guys spin out. Some of those spins wouldn't quite happen in the Pro 4s like we saw. So I think it's going to be exciting. A lot of these drivers, I think, like a guy like Parker Kligerman, this is probably going to favor him a little bit better because it's more forgiving. So I'm really excited to see that. I am looking at our qualifying board, and one of the top eShort course drivers in the world, I don't know why yet, but he missed the first round of racing. Maybe he had a tech difficulty and wasn't able to log in, but we've got Josh Edmondson in the number 58 now. He's currently sitting in the 3rd spot qualifying. That's one of the biggest storylines. Here's a guy with nothing to lose. He knows he's out of this World Cup, but here's a guy who can take a win on any given day. Watch that 58 of Josh Edmondson. That is a storyline heading into Crandon.
He has many wins in the Pro 2s, in these Pro 4 trucks on iRacing, but the wins have escaped him in these premier events. We saw the likes of Cam Peterson, as we mentioned, Brandon Proudfoot, Luke Canup win races in the 2020 season that qualified drivers in for this event. But last year in the 2020 World Cup found himself, in a couple of runner-up finishes, finished 3rd at one point, finished 2nd. So he's been close, is looking for that extra step. And here's an onboard look with Ron Capps, again, rocking the VR goggles as he gets around for qualifying. About 4 minutes left on the board. And we are at capacity for 27 trucks now. So as you mentioned, with Edmondson being added to the field, that's somebody else that the rest of the field has to be worried about. And just looking at that qualifying order left-hand side, I don't think we had enough time to stress how big of a development it was that Cam Peterson wrecked out of that Pro 2 feature. So he's trying to get some points back. He was fastest in Pro 2Q, currently fastest right now in the Pro 4 qualifying. Travis Pastrana, a name that needs no introduction. He had a bit of a rough go in the Pro 2 races. I think he was on his lid at a couple of points, but also at other times, Jim had speed and was towards the front of the field. So looking to try to build upon that. This is somebody else who's been in all kinds of things on the service, mainly rallycross racing as well on the iRacing platform, and try to make it happen in the Pro 4 part of the night.
Yeah, and one thing to note about Travis Pastrana is he's actually no stranger to Crandon. He showed up last year and he raced a Pro 2 here at Crandon. So Travis, one of the few guys who's actually raced here in the real world in a full-size truck. So, I think we may see a little bit different Travis Pastrana here in the Pro 4 at Crandon than we saw there earlier on in this World Cup there at Sparks at Wild West Motorsports Park. I think Travis is going to feel a lot more confident behind the wheel. You hate to say Travis Pastrana doesn't feel confident, but I think we're going to see a little bit different Pastrana here for this second round of the World Cup.
Former NASCAR Cup Series driver Greg Biffle, top of your screen, didn't have a good qualifying attempt at Wild West because he got hung up on some of the Jersey barriers and didn't really get a time in. He's got a time on the board right now that puts him towards the back of the Q order, which again won't pay out Q points, but what pays out is the heat race. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well. And even though the track is bigger, our format for the Pro 4 half of this coverage stays the same. So it will be a 10-minute heat race, maximum of 10 laps as well for this. So we'll try to keep it roughly the same distance, and then it'll go to 15 minutes for the final event. When we get all 27 of these trucks out there on track at a time. And to the point I made a little bit earlier about Cam Peterson, you're on board with the driver top of the board.
I think Cam Peterson, he's going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I truly think we're going to see a wicked fast Cam Peterson here at Crandon. Obviously, got taken out of that last event. I think he ended up scoring a handful of points there, just because he battled back, but definitely not the start to this World Cup Cam wanted. I think we're going to see him try and sweep not only the qualifying, but also the heat and the main event here at Crandon. He knows that's the only way he's got a shot at this World Cup, and we're going to see what the best in the world has in store for us tonight.
The slow start may make that even impossible, right? He's in a tough position where he can do everything he needs to, which would be 10 points for winning Q, where he currently sits at the top of the board now, by the way, by a healthy margin, 0.3 of a second. Back to Heitritter, who then much closer. You can see Prater and Barry very tight. Second, third, and fourth on the board. And there's a look at the 50 base and Prater right now at the moment. But 10 points for qualifying, 25 to pay out for the heat race win, maximum of 50 if you win the main event. You're looking at about 85 points available. Will that help? Yes. Is it going to be awfully difficult to do that? Absolutely. And listen, this is a guy you talk about a chip on his shoulder. We know that he can do great things in these trucks. As Prater sees there's not enough time left for another lap, so he'll do a little bit of freestyle in between the lanes. There's Greg Biffle to the very last seconds trying to improve his time.
Yeah, Greg Biffle, and Greg, he's no stranger to off-road either. He's even when he was doing, racing NASCAR, he always went to Glamis. He had sand buggies. He's got a lot of UTVs. I mean, he's no stranger to the dirt. We've seen him in off-road trucks before take podiums. So I think Greg Biffle, Pro 4 may suit him just a little bit better than the Pro 2 did. Maybe a little bit of a dark horse heading in here to Crandon.
The points are handed out. Cameron Peterson, Holden Heitritter, Mason Prater, Connor Barry, and Josh Edmondson. Your top 5 in qualifying are in the points. Let's flip them around and talk about your starting grid for heat race number 1. So from the back to the front, Greg Biffle and Travis Pastrana will start on the front row for this 10-minute heat race number 1. Rodrigo Ampudia and Mikey Lawrence going to be on row number 2. Ronnie Anderson, Alan Ampudia going to be through P6 with Trenton Briley and Bobby Sant Jr. through the number 8 spot. And then Bobby Rafferty and Josh Fox going to make it all the way through round number 5. That'll round out your top 10 runners in the field. Second half is where we'll see everybody split to a second row. So the land rush start is going to be your first 5 rows. Technically, it's all one row. Your top 10 going to be side by side. 11th on back, Jim, going to be on row 2.
Yeah, 11th on back going to be in row 2. As we get, look here at Riley and Sant and Rafferty and Josh Fox, Proudfoot, Edmondson. Like I said before, one of the ones to watch there is Josh Edmondson in the number 58. I think, we're going to see him come out swinging, and definitely he's going to be going for broke here in this second round of the World Cup, and it all starts here in heat number 1.
10 trucks on the front row. In fact, I think we might have to push them all the way to 3, depending on how wide we want to make this thing. in the land rush start. It's important to note, by the logistics of this track, that in theory, all the way to the right-hand side is the place to be. That's why the pole sitter is all the way to the right of the front row, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee the best spot to be. Certainly, I wouldn't want to be in the middle. Look how wide they're spread out there. But sometimes you see Josh Fox way to the left there, your P10 qualifier for this, who ends up on the outside of that 10 wide front row. Maybe that's a place to be. Let everybody else get into each other. Don't be shocked either if those back four, your fast qualifiers, Proudfoot, Edmondson, Prater, and Peterson, if they sag back just a little bit to stay out of the chaos. You thought turn one was tough in our opening half of the program at Wild West Motorsports Park. Allow Crandon to introduce itself. It's going to be a thriller for Heat Race 1.
Well, and some of the pros will tell you, the far inside there's actually a little bit of a downhill run that the guys on the outside don't get. So the inside has always been just a hair quicker than starting all the way to the outside on row number one. So definitely be watching those guys start on the inside. They may have a little bit of leg up, downhill run, and it's a little bit tighter going into turn number one. Definitely going to be interesting to watch here. But, this is the most exciting turn in all of off-road racing. I would say all of motorsports. You're going to have some of the best drivers in the business here in a Pro 4 sliding into that turn number one at the big house here at Crandon. There is nothing better than this.
Looking at a 10-minute heat race number one. The heat race win pays out 25 critical points in search of this General Tire eShort Course World Cup presented by Fistful of Bourbon Championship title. But of course, it also gives you a ticket on row 3 likely for the feature race where the most points are on the line. We have 14 trucks ready to go racing in this opening heat. Again, watch for the back four to maybe play it safe. Greg Biffle on pole, bottom left of your screen. We'll have that run down into turn number one. The advantage into the first corner, but you really do need to be efficient getting through the gears as well off of the get-go here to get it up to speed, and maybe a false start for Pastrana and Biffle. That may end up being a penalty as those two drivers roll before the green flag flies. Now we're racing. Look out with traffic in front, a couple of trucks together at the rear, and who wins out in all of this? Is it the 10 truck? Yes, it is, of Alan Impudia, but for how long? Now it's Trenton Briley to the race lead.
Ampudia and Briley, look at that, bumping and banging as they head into that barn corner. Oh, wow. That was a wild start to this with Biffle and Pastrana, kind of messing up the rest of the field there. Ampudia dropping back into the third there. You got Josh Fox now putting a lot of pressure on Ampudia. And as you see,
3 wide.
Yeah, 3 wide. As you see here, Evan, I mean, this track's just got a lot more real estate. We can go 2 and 3 wide here. That was a tough one there from Mikey Lawrence, clipping that K-rail, doing a lot of damage to that truck. But, these drivers are able to go 2 and 3 wide here, whereas we weren't able to do that at Wild West Motorsports Park.
Lawrence found the one spot on track where it was the sharp end of a K-rail and got a bit shish-kebabbed on that one, drops to the back. Meanwhile, everybody else fighting for second best up front, trying to pull away, is Trenton Briley, who was right smack in the middle. And look behind him, second place on his own, Bobby Rafferty, and then it's chaos. Fox and Budia, they fight for third and fourth. Way to the bottom, what a slide job, and what a move. I think that was the 22, maybe no, the 52 of Ronnie Anderson, who made a big slide in that corner. He'll end up now, it's a 4-way battle for 4th.
Yeah, Ronnie Anderson, he's raced here in the real world. His brother, RJ Anderson, multi-time World Cup winner here at Crandon, but looks like Ronnie Anderson going to go up and over. This heat race not going to be one for him as we go back up to this fight for these middle positions, and we got drivers going off the track, back into the track. This is a wild one here at Crandon.
And still, even the teammates, you can see beating and banging just a little bit as they get together. But Briley survives the early race chaos and gets himself up, to a decent position to third. Had an opportunity to maybe lead for a moment, but Briley and Rafferty well ahead of everybody else, and he will lead now at the completion of lap number 1. Looking at the battle between Fox and company, this is back in position number 6. That's the 131 of Bobby Sant Jr. Behind him, a small touch by Cameron Peterson, who again is looking to make up for a slow start. Started 14th. He is in P8. They got about maybe 6-7 trucks here, separated by maybe 2 seconds.
Yeah, it is nice and tight right now, and they got a lot of breathing room, so you're going to see them start stretching their legs. So it's Briley, Rafferty, Ampudia, Prater, and Edmondson there in the mix. As Edmondson getting a look there at Prater, trying to tuck around to the inside of turn number 1. Nothing there. But look at him go all the way back to the inside. He is working all the angles here, Edmondson is, as he tries to get around that number 50 of Prater.
Doing everything he can to try to pick up that position, but for the moment stuck behind. Now a slide to the inside. It'll get him alongside, but it's going to hurt him on exit. That's what Prater was banking on. Leave the bottom open. Edmondson takes that. He gets right alongside you, but you've got the traction off the corner, and you'll pull the advantage. Of course, the concern is if you leave the bottom open, you can give somebody an opportunity to maybe drive into your door and move you out of the way. We saw a lot of that early in this one, not so much maybe in the second half in these Pro 4s. The night's still young. There's a slide at the bottom, leaning on each other. Edmondson trying the long way around.
It looks like he's going to tuck in right behind him as we've got this drag race all the way back into this tight hairpin corner. It's going to shoot you out to start another lap here at Crandon. Look at that, all the way to the bottom. Edmondson putting that right fender right on the tire there of Prater. Risky move. Didn't look like it ended up hurting either one of the trucks. We're going to see them go back in here and head down towards that barn corner.
Looks like we'll get about 8, maybe 9 laps in with the timer in effect. Again, we go from 10 laps in the Pro 2s to 10 minutes. That's an important distinction, and you can see that countdown clock top left corner of your screen. Up the road from these drivers, Alan Ampudia in the grass a little bit, but still good in third. Here's another challenge. Edmondson goes to the slide. They both saw it coming. What a cross by both the 10 and the 50.
Yeah, he went from third to first to third in the matter of one corner. That's the gravel pit corner, and like you had talked about earlier, Evan, you take that high line and you're going to open up the bottom. The problem is the run off that corner is really long into the next corner, so you lose all the momentum if you take that bottom line. It's a really tough corner to make a pass, even though it looks like it would be very easy, but it's all about momentum coming out of that. As looks like we've got a little bit of contact there with Ampudia and Edmondson.
Leaning on each other, and now wanting to join the fun is Peterson. Up to now position number 6, looking for more on the back of Edmondson. It is a 4-way battle. Prater through Peterson for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th position. The track really thins up there for a moment, but again, there's a lot more room through a lot of these corners. And now it's Peterson to the outside of Edmondson here, but he'll have the preferred positioning down at this end of the racetrack. Give him the spot. We'll see if Edmondson can try to come back on him, but it looks like Peterson may win out and move him now to position 5. And 48 truck is digging.
That 48 truck is definitely digging as he gets around his teammate Edmondson. Peterson and Edmondson, 2 of the best drivers in iRacing in short course here. You're going to get to see a couple of teammates who are some of the best in the world do battle. And mixed in there, you've got Ampudia, who is, I got to tell you, Ampudia, Alan, he has been wicked strong here in this World Cup so far.
He's been very impressive going head-to-head with all of these names who, as we talked about earlier, the big names in iRacing and virtual short course racing. He's going right toe-to-toe with them and is going to make it difficult for Peterson to get an extra spot. This group 5 seconds off of the race lead. I don't think a heat race win is in the books for Peterson, for Edmondson, but it's Prater and Ampudia that they're going to hunt on, and he'll slide down to the inside on the door, but Ampudia is going to get the run off of the corner. I think Peterson knows he can get this spot, maybe one more, with about 3 minutes left on the clock. Looking further back Josh Fox had some contact early in this one. He rides right now 7th ahead of Brandon Proudfoot, and they've got a front row view of the battle up the road where Josh Edmondson nearly just went off track, and now he's going to be the driver to get around the 10 car as Peterson falls down to position 6.
Yeah, Peterson dropping back here there as we get a look at Brandon Proudfoot now. He is a winner here in one of our Triple Crown events last year. I believe that one was at Laguna Seca, but Proudfoot now getting into the mix and trying to make his presence known in that Polaris Razorback truck. So we're going to see if he's got a little something for Fox, Peterson, and Ampudia.
Doing what he can. Clock working against all these drivers now. They, in the case of, Josh Fox up 3 spots, Cam Peterson up 8, Bobby Sant Jr. Down a spot. So they've certainly been trying to beat up on the 131 just a little bit and try to make some moves and up the road. You can see a touch and Ampudia is going to get turned. Peterson too aggressive. He's on 2 tires in a round, and Cameron Peterson pushed the issue, and that's going to be more points thrown away. He falls to P8.
Wow, Peterson, that was definitely, he was trying to make something happen there. It looks like it just quite wasn't, and that's definitely going to penalize him a lot. You got to think at this point, his hopes of a repeat World Cup win are probably out the window, as we get a good glimpse there of the number 58, Josh Edmondson, who has been running ridiculously strong. As we're going to get a glimpse here at what happened with Cam Peterson heading into this hairpin.
He had fallen to P6, so that's 5th and 4th up the road, and it looks like maybe there was a checkup by Ampudia to not get into Edmondson, but right there he got him, then got hit by Fox, finished off, and if Peterson could have raced to 3rd, which was the highest I think that was possible for him, he could have walked away with 15 points. Instead, he's down in position number 8. He's looking at a possible payday of 4 points in this heat. Maybe he can get another spot and get up to 6, but not looking good for him. Picking up now the battle for the heat race lead with about 40 some odd seconds on the clock. Trenton Briley still in control, but somewhat quietly, Bobby Rafferty has snuck his way through into 2nd and is within striking distance should that 17 make a mistake.
Look at that, just floating it out there right on the edge of the fluff, trying to get as much traction as possibly can. Heading into this Polaris Razor gravel pit corner, lots of lines there, riding right at the edge of the traction. Gonna slingshot off here into the gazebo corner, the final corner here at Crandon.
Trying to look on the bottom. Do we get another lap, or will that serve as the checkered? It looks like white flag in the air. They just got to the start finish before time expired. So that buys Rafferty about another 1 mile and change to get the job done.
And Briley making a few mistakes here. Rafferty may have a shot at this. Briley, he's feeling the pressure here. Rafferty, a veteran, he's sitting there. He's going to have to make a move at some point. But it looks like Briley may be opening the door just a hair.
He tried. He was awfully close at the white flag, but since then, he's fallen off a significant margin. It's about a 4 truck length difference. Final set of corners. They're a mile ahead of the rest of the field. The question only, who walks away with 25 points? Who walks away with 18? Sliding to get within a truck length now. Rafferty to have one last good look.
Rafferty floating it a little too high up into the fluff. I don't know if he's going to have enough there as he tries to out drag race him. 1 corner to go. Up and over the big jump.
Here he goes to the inside. They touch, they beat, they bang. A photo finish over the line. But Trenton Briley will hang on by 4/100ths of a second.
Wow, you want to talk about a nail biter of a finish. Rafferty waiting until the final corner. Briley opening it up. Went to inches there, Evan, but Briley able to hold him off and get that 25-point bonus. Rafferty gonna have to settle for 7 points back with 8 points.
That's exactly what you want to see right there. They're leaning on each other. They're using the fenders. But he didn't just take him out, right? He gave him a chance, slowed him down a little bit, and an incredible side-by-side finish. Look at the margin of victory, 4 100ths, 45 1,000ths of a second, as Trenton Briley gets max points for the heat race win atop Bobby Rafferty, and all of your top 10 finishers in the points. It'll be Mason Prater, Josh Edmondson, and Alan Ampudia, with Bobby Sant Jr. down through the rest of the running order. These drivers, Lawrence, Anderson, Biffle, Pastrana, no points, but they get preferred grid positioning for the 15-minute feature. So you thought that one lead rush start was fun enough. Let's do it again and look at the grid for Heat Race 2. Landon Castle, Bucky Lasek alongside each other with Ron Capps and Parker Kligerman. Sean Stratton, Dave Bodio, your top 6. Joe Lusk and Gary Green, your top 8, with Connor Parise and James Ambrosius, that 10-wide front row.
10 wide front row. Oh, man, this is going to be exciting. As we saw last time, Evan, I mean, there was a little bit of choke up there with Biffle and Pastrana, jumping the gun a bit, got into it with each other, and a couple other drivers had to shuffle to the back, as we already see a couple of drivers there jumping the gun, back it up. There's a lot of strategy goes into here as we are green flag race. Look at those two in the second row diving all the way to the left, trying to avoid the chaos.
Castle was on pole, but he intentionally drops back. He doesn't want to be in the mess up front, and who's going to have the advantage? Oh, Ambrosius hard into the outside wall. More contact than a spin by Dave Bodio, a flip by Bucky Lasek in the rear. A crazy start to this one. There's trucks all over the place. Gary Green got squeezed out, and at the front of it all is Connor Parise, trailed by Luke Nutt for first and second. Here's the battle for third, and now side by side for the lead.
Side by side for the lead. I can't wait to see the way that thing sorts out, but we had a lot of action there in the first corners as that is Parise there in the lead with the number 77 Knupp in the second spot, pushing on Parise really, really hard. Luke, a winner here at Crandon in one of our events late last year. So he's no stranger to this track. It looks like he's really pushing on Parise there.
You'll see left-hand side of your screen for a moment, Bucky Lasek is being shown up front. That is not true. He wrecked and had to take a virtual tow to pit road. Technically, he's ahead of these drivers on the running order, but he and Ambrosius, that scoring to update once lap number 1 is complete. Those two drivers had to take a tow. They're on the hook to pit lane, and they are done for, at least all intents and purposes, a good points finish in this one. But the challenge for the actual top position continues, and it is on each other's door between these two. Not a lot of space. A little bit of a rough landing by Luke Knupp that time. It'll open things up slightly for Parise as we ride with 177.
Yeah, going on board with the 77 on the hunt for Parise. Parise, one of the veterans, really been around the iRacing service for a long time. And it looks like he's got a pretty good run on him. We're going to see if he's going to pull the outside-inside move all the way to the outside. No, there's nothing on the inside. It looks like they're going to slam the door, make Luke take the long way around the gazebo turn here.
A long 10 minutes when you're under a blanket like this. What we saw in that first heat was that it was a great battle for the win, but they were able to pull away. That is not happening in this one, because joining the party now is Connor Berry, not that much further behind. Joe Lusk, Colton Heitritter, and a good battle for 4th and 5th at the moment. But you got 3 trucks on top of each other for the lead, and it looks like they're all pretty evenly matched right now.
Yeah, it looks like Connor Berry giving Luke Knupp a little love tap there. But, I did see on that last straightaway, one Ron Capps kind of sneaking his way into things as well.
He's somebody who's been on his lid a few times, and not the objective ever, but has been able to be clean in this one and is running well in position number 6, just outside of that group of top 5. Your top 5 all separated by about less than 2 seconds or so. So Ron Capps just on the outside of that. If he can hang on to finish in this position, he could pay out 8 points. That could be big for him for trying to get a good finish in the overall standings when the night's all said and done. Side by side up front, and he's got a great view of the battle for the lead. Not as good as the battle or the view from Connor Berry. You ride on board with the truck in 3rd. You can see your leaders all over each other, and a misstep by Connor Parise. He'll go 1st to 3rd. It's Knupp now back on top.
Yeah, and sometimes, as we saw, with Connor Berry sitting in that third spot when everything's so tight, isn't a bad position to be in because you can see what those two lead trucks are doing, and once in a while a window opens and you can sneak right in and snag a spot, just like we saw Connor Berry do. So now Connor Parise in that same position. We'll see if he can gain a position or two back.
And will this battle for second maybe allow Canup to get away just a little bit? I mean, if they're going to be all over each other, like they're another touch off of the corner, but the advantage to Berry, if they're busy running into each other, Luke Canup's not going to complain. He says, guys, have at it. You guys feel free to run all over each other and give me a lot of space up at the front of the field to just be clean and run this thing out just shy of halfway. In this second heat race, it's Canup, followed by Berry, Parise, Heitritter, Lusk, your top five.
It looks like Canup kind of running a protect line there through the gravel pit corner. Really not taking any aggressive lines here, really trying to play the defense, it looks like, at this point. He knows drivers within about a second of him. So you're not going to see him risk anything at this point. He and Connor Berry are very familiar with each other. They run a lot of the same league races, so they probably are familiar with their driving style and and some of the lines each other take. So it's going to be really interesting to see the way this battle plays out here with Canup and Berry.
And now some spacing, so maybe an opportunity for these drivers to put down some fast laps. The best of them all last time was Luke Canup with 1:17.706. He was fastest of them all. That was also the fastest lap of the race by anybody to this point. On board with Heitritter in fourth.
Yeah, now Heitritter, he's got a great view of what's happening in front of him. We saw him in one of the earlier races just kind of see an opening, just send his truck in there and hope for the best, and ended up working out to his benefit. So we're going to see if maybe he's playing his cards the same way here at Crandon in this heat race. We're about a little over halfway home.
And I saw with the onboard there, a lot of these wide sweeping corners, right? The first half of the program with the Pro 2s at Wild West, they were basically all hairpins. Every single corner was an opportunity to drive it in, try to undercut somebody, try to put a door on somebody. Basically a passing opportunity at all points. Here at Crandon, track is much larger, but it's a very different track as well, Jim. There's a lot of parts where you can't always just send it in on somebody. You kind of have to worry about carrying your own momentum through and then set yourself up for the next hairpin, wherever that may be.
Yeah, and this is a track that penalizes you. It's got these very, very long runs. If you exit one of the corners and you've got a bad line going out of the corner, it's going to punish you for a good, sometimes quarter mile up the road. You're in a nice tight track and you make a mistake in one corner, you're not going to lose a lot of ground because the next corner is right in front of you. But here at Crandon, complete opposite. You really got to hit your marks because it's all about momentum here and carrying that speed out of these corners.
And entering the picture, we mentioned Joe Lusk, who has been pretty quiet in the number 20 truck in fifth position. He is the tentative points leader after the Pro 2 portion of the race. So he is looking for critical points. He's got a real opportunity to be the champion when this is all said and done. Ron Capps just now under fire. Parker Kligerman actually Capps now off track after running in position number 5. So that will hand that position over to Kligerman.
You got Kligerman there. I'm really impressed with him as well during this whole entire World Cup today. A guy that had never really driven much short course here on iRacing. He started doing his homework, and he's been really, really impressive here with some of his finishes and running some really clean lines. I think off-road bug might have hit one Parker Kligerman.
He's been somebody else who's been all over the sim and rally, and certainly a big fan of these trucks. Sean Stratton beats him out in that battle. Further back now, Connor Parise watching from third as he's being chased down by Heitritter. It's still Canup and Berry first and second, and Tiffany, a lot of the same elements of the first heat race seen here in this second one with just under 2 minutes on the clock.
No, you're completely right. And the track is looking really great out there. I've seen it in person, and when the blue groove starts to come in, which it is right now, like Jim was saying, you're really going to have to continue to keep that momentum out of the corners, especially into gravel pit. We always talk about the infamous turn 1, but gravel pit is where it gets a lot of people because it's turn to turn to turn right into the gazebo, and then you have that straightaway into a hairpin. So all of this together, like Jim was saying, keep that momentum. The blue groove is coming in. And if Parker really races at Crandon ever, I want to see if he's actually going to do that lean too in real life.
He tried, I know, in the first race, and it didn't help him make one of the corners, Jim, but it hasn't stopped him. And touch on that point that Tiffany made about the blue groove, right? If somebody doesn't watch this short course action, they might not know the term, and especially how that's replicated here in the sim world.
Well, and as you can see, you got that light and the dark dirt, and that light dirt, as you see, starts getting dark again, and that's when the blue groove starts happening, and that means you've got a ton of traction. And the interesting thing about Crandon is you see that transition from light and dark dirt. Well, at the top where there's that dark dirt, a shelf actually forms. And sometimes that can be up to 8, 10, 12 inches. So if you get out of that fast line and you get up into that flump, as we like to call it, your truck actually hits that. It'll upset the truck. And not only are you in a place with not a lot of traction, but you're also in a place where it can affect the suspension and honestly start flipping you on your side at times and upset the truck. That blue groove really crucial. And once that starts forming, you really want to hit marks and hit, and not get out of that, because if you do,
it'll be very tight to see if these drivers get one more lap in. Here's all the angles. Top left, off of the back of the race leader. Bottom left, on board with second place challenger Connor Berry. And then the outside look. They did make it to the line in time, so they get one more trip around for the 8th lap and white flag in here, race 2.
We're really going to see here what Connor Berry's made of. He's going to have one shot here to chase down Luke Knupp. And if I know Crandon, I know it well enough to know it's going to come in that gravel pit. They're about a half a lap away from the gravel pit, and if he's going to make something happen, he's going to really try and make it happen there. He's going to try and set something up. He's going to have 2 or 3 corners to do it, and then when they head into that Polaris gravel pit, you're going to see Luke Knupp try and make the protect line, and you're going to see Connor Berry try and dive below and try an outside inside, and we're going to see if it's going to happen as we head down in here into the barn corner.
Seemed like he gave it a lot in that last turn, gave up a ton of time to Luke Knupp up front, who's going to put it all the way to the outside wall, using every single inch of the track. And the difference between the two now, over a second and a half.
Yeah, there's not going to be enough time here. Like you said, he gave up too much ground there trying to make something happen in that hairpin. Looks like it's going to be Luke Knupp's race to lose, as we've got this gazebo corner, which is the final corner. And Luke Knupp going to take home this heat race win.
Big points. Look at third. Parise Heitritter in the 512 pushes his way through. Holden Heitritter moving Parise for third and fourth. Now a battle for 7th. Parker Kligerman trying to close in on, it looks like, Gary Green and Sean Stratton. And Green will hang on in a side-by-side finish across the line for 7th and 8th. We got photo finishes everywhere, but it's Luke Knupp at the top of the board. He was 4th in the points after the Pro 2 half of the race. About 13 off of the very top spot. That is a huge cash of 25 points to Luke Knupp, the Heat Race 2 winner.
Yeah, great run by Knupp. He had to battle some traffic early on. He got out front, ran a clean race. Nobody really challenged him at any point. Connor Berry had a glimpse there, had a look at him, but nothing quite there. As we get a look there at 11th through 13th, Bucky Lassick with a quadruple kickflip in a Pro 4. We will say they're on lap number 1.
Yeah, not anything that's going to get him points that he was hoping for, but style points maybe, as it was a bit of a rough go for him at the start of this one. And now it's crunch time. Listen, all these drivers may not have a real good idea of the exact point situation, but we've handed out points for 5 of 6 events, right? Qualifying, heats, in the feature in the Pro 2s. Now qualifying in the heats done for Pro 4. So the last big chunk of points is on the line. We're going to send them off into the land rush start for this feature, Tiffany, and I think it's going to be a thriller. We saw a big shock with some of those big names have problems. I'm curious if all those guys in contention can keep it clean to at least give themselves an opportunity.
Exactly. And going into the land rush start, that is going to be key. So like we saw in the last heat, some drivers that were in the second row went straight back to the middle, to the left to stay out of that carnage. And once you're going to get through that carnage, I really think that's where people are going to, take over and dominate, especially at the barn turn. And like Jim and I have been talking about, gravel pit, that really determines what you're going to do. And a lot of what I'm looking forward to is how many turns are these drivers going to take before to set up something going into something else. I can't wait till this final. It's going to be a great one.
Jim, it feels like that in a lot of these events, it's been able to narrow it down to it's this guy's race to lose, right? One or two. There's at least, I think, a half a dozen drivers with a real good opportunity to win this thing, depending on what happens in this feature.
Yeah, and I think you're completely right. I don't have, the points offhand, but, we've seen 4 or 5 drivers really, really run strong. We haven't seen, last World Cup, we saw Cam Peterson just jump out there and go, hey, look, I'm the guy to beat. We haven't seen that today, which is really interesting. It really sets the stage differently because, heading into the main event last go around, it was Cam Peterson and everybody went, oh, is he going to be able to sweep? This one, I can't tell you whose race it is. I mean, I like you said, I think we got 5, 6 guys who could all come home not only with the win, but with a World Cup title.
One race left to go to determine the champion. We'll be back in just a moment from the virtual Crandon International Off-Road Raceway for more special coverage of iRacing on CBS Sports.
Born for competition. Perfected on the racetrack. For whatever your road looks like, with General Tire, anywhere is possible.
Take your driving to the next level at Dirtfish. Gain confidence behind the wheel of an all-wheel drive Subaru STI or rear-wheel drive BRZ. Get sideways with skills on gravel, mud, and tarmac. Dirtfish offers programs for every driver. Visit dirtfish.com for details.
And back from the virtual Crandon International Off-Road Raceway, coverage of the General Tire eShort Course World Cup presented by Fistful of Bourbon. It continues with iRacing on CBS Sports. Evan Pasoko, Jim Beaver, and Tiffany Stone on the call with you. There is one race left until we determine our 2021 World Cup champion. And Jim, it is anybody's game.
Oh, it is absolutely anybody's game. World Cup is shaping up to be just like we had hoped. A shootout down to the final round. We got a lot of points still up for grabs. It's anybody's game. I think we got about 5 or 6 drivers who have a real shot in not only taking home the win, but crowning themselves World Cup champion. I know Joe Luss, the winner there at Sparks with Wild West Motorsports Park. We'll see if he can sweep the 2 main events. That's one of the storylines heading into this. Yeah, I got to tell you, this is going to be a lot of trucks on track here at Crandon. This turn 1 shootout is going to be epic. I am definitely looking forward to this one.
And Tiffany, to the point that you made in that heat race about the Blue Groove, Race Control was telling everybody the track was really worn out. So they're going to clean up some of the track, give them a little bit more grip back in it. And it's going to be even worse now, to the point that Jim just made where we're going to double the truck count. So it's going to be really crazy out there.
Exactly. And I know I keep bringing it back to, turn 1 and everything, but going off of what you said, double the trucks. We've already seen the carnage going in there. Who's going to take the whole shot? And this right here is going to determine where you're going to get the lead and who's going to be in the lead. Because if you get caught up on all that carnage, where do you go from there? And so I'm ready to look forward to that one.
One more look at the track map, the virtual recreation of the Crandon International Off-Road Raceway, 1 3/4 mile, 8 turn, as we get set for a 15-minute timed feature race in the Pro 4 trucks with a competition caution at the halfway point. We are going to stack them 3 rows deep, 27 trucks in total, and it is another invert. So Travis Pastrana, Landon Castle, Greg Biffle, Bucky Lasek, with Ronnie Anderson, James Ambrosius, Mikey Lawrence, Ron Capps, and then you've also got Rodrigo Ampudia and Dave Bodio on the 10-wide first row.
Yeah, it looks like Cam Peterson sneaking in there in the 7th row. That's going to be an interesting thing. You know, normally Cam would be starting all the way back in the 14th spot there, or at back of the field, excuse me. In 28th spot. So interesting one to watch is going to be Cam Peterson there. As we see, it looks like Ronnie Anderson jumping the gun just a bit.
And we're racing for the Pro 4 feature. Maybe a false start for Anderson. How are all these trucks going to fit into the first corner? There's a huge flip towards the back. Up front, Pastrana leads. He gets tagged, and out in front of all of it for a brief moment may have been Dave Bodio. He now gains control. Ambrosius is in second. Ron Capps into the outside wall.
Man, that was some carnage. I don't even know which trucks completely got caught up in there quite yet, but the drivers out front definitely had a distinct advantage of not having to go through that. But one of the guys I want to key in on here, one of the guys we've talked about, and I think he's in the hunt to take home this whole thing there, is Alan Ampudia in that bright pink Papa's and Beer Vision wheel truck. He's running really, really strong here.
I saw the 72 on his lid, so Son Stratton had issues. Parker Kligerman had a spin. So those drivers, rough starts to this wild Pro 4 feature. Look at that pack. There's some trucks on 2 wheels back in traffic, a bit sideways now, and a 3-wide battle all over each other. This trio sees the 77 of Luke Canup, Josh Edmondson, and Rodrigo Ampudia. Who's going to make the hairpin? A lot of drivers overcooked it.
Yeah, that's a deceiving corner. You're coming on one of the fastest straightaways on the track, and it's a game of chicken. Who's going to hit the brakes first? We saw a couple of guys win the game of chicken but lose the war because they went all the way up into the outside of that corner. So we go up front with Dave Bodio on that Vision wheel, number 16.
And Ken Bodio have a bit of semblance of calmness. Rodrigo Ampudia just spawned back in traffic, so he has heavy damage. He'll fall out of position number 9. Heitritter ends up second through all of this. What a climb after he started 22nd. For perspective, he was on the 3rd row of that land rush start. He is into the number 2 spot, though. Bodio leads behind them, Cameron Peterson. It may be too little too late, but he's looking for the Pro 4 feature win from 3rd.
Yeah, and obviously, I think gloves are off at this point. He knows he doesn't have a shot at regaining his World Cup title, but, at this point, I don't know. I think winning Pro 4, the feature, that might be a nice little send-off for Cam. Whoa, he just pile drives there into Heitritter.
Well, that goes to show you that he is taking no prisoners anymore. He drove right through the 512 of Heitritter, and to his credit, Heitritter took it and kept on going. Let's take a second look, though, at all of the chaos on the start of this race. I mentioned the flip for Stratton. You'll look for his number 72 blue truck, basically right in the middle of your picture there, 2nd row. Also look for that entry of Parker Kligerman, the 77, the white and blue truck, kind of top left corner. They're all touching, and right there at the big pack, there's the flip by Stratton. He's into the wall. I saw Greg Biffle spin. There's the Kligerman spin, and it's not done. Now into the 2nd set of corners, there's Josh Fox behind. He touches the wall, and then you'll also see right there more contact, and that's Ron Capps into the wall through the barn corner. So a lot of physicality on the opening lap of this race, and for the most part, it didn't come from one guy driving through everybody else, Jim. It just came down to 6 trucks going for maybe 2 trucks worth of real estate.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was. It didn't look like anybody was overly aggressive or really trying to do any takeout moves. I think that, we're just going to chalk those up to racing accidents. You get that many trucks on course, and, something's got to give. And, we saw a few drivers, on the short end of the stick there as we get a look at the number 77 of Canup all the way at the top, trying to make a run there on the number 50. and we'll see if he can get around Prater.
Doing what they can. You can see first and second with a pretty significant advantage right now over the rest of the field. Third going to be a good question mark, and then back here in traffic where we're watching, where that 77 of Canup is all over the back of the 50 of Mason Prater in front of him. Prater made the pass, and I think Canup going to do his best to get that spot back from him. He'll look down to the bottom. This is the final set of corners. Then they'll go over the jump here, the right-hander, and it is a very short dash off of this turn to that start-finish right there over the hump and across that finish line. So that's something else that's very important. Let's watch how this all unfolded up front in the battle for the race lead. You can see the 16 machine of Dave Bodio had it. Here was Heitritter, a slide, a touch. It was enough to slow the 16 down, and then side by side for the lead.
Yeah, that was just some good, clean racing there, and looks like the 16 there of Bodio just getting out of the race line and getting a little upset, and the 512 sneaking in and making it stick.
Looked like the 16 machine tried to give it back to him, right? Bodio tried to put a slide on him in his own right, but it did not work out for him, and he has since fallen all the way down to position number 4 in the running order with the 10 of Alan Ampudia, who has a great opportunity maybe to get a points-paying position or maybe a possible top spot after coming into this 10th in the points. Maybe an opportunity to walk away with a lot. Caution flag is now in the air. That is our mid-race caution. We'll slow things down, group them back up and reset, and then we'll race it out to the end.
And, we've got to talk once again about that pink truck. Alan Ampudia, if there's been one driver that has impressed me the most during this World Cup, and he comes from the real world, and he's not even a short course guy. He's a trophy truck driver, but he's going, head to head with the top guys in the world in sim racing, and the guy's just dropping bombs here. I mean, he is on point. You want to talk about an impressive run he's having. I don't know how this thing's going to wrap up and how he's going to wind up, but I got to tell you, if I got to give an award for one of the guys that I didn't expect to do as well as he has, it is going to be Alan Ampudia so far this World. He's having a great run there in third.
Holden Heitritter really impressing me after the Pro 2 part of the program. He had 37 points. It was 15 points behind Joe Lusk. Well, he's currently sitting in a 50-point paying position in the lead. Lusk is way down in 9th, so that could benefit the 512. You see a truck flipping in the back, but we're focusing on Mason Prater. Watch this replay with the 50 truck trying to drive on the inside, up on his side, and over and over. Those two drivers weren't going to give an inch into the corner.
No, and he just landed wrong and hooked just right, and like you said, up and over, and man, that was a pretty spectacular spill there for Mason Prater. Thankfully, this is in the virtual world, and we don't have to send him off to the hospital to be checked. But man, pretty exciting here at Crandon, and we're halfway home, but we still got half a race to go and a World Cup champion to crown.
The hits hurt a significantly lesser amount in the sim. That's one of the beautiful parts. I mentioned that at the very top of all this in the Wild West part, that without the personal risk you take by throwing a 4,000-pound truck into the corner, some drivers might get a little bit more brave than they would in the real world. And you mentioned just a bit of a tough landing there. Giving it everything they had. Ronnie Anderson, who was running in a good position earlier in this one, his feature race is done. Rodrigo Ampudia and James Ambrosius off of the lead lap. So 24 trucks on the lead lap, getting set for a restart. That's going to come under 6 minutes to go in this race. The lights on top of the iRacing pace trucks still on. And this time through the start-finish line, they'll stay out once more, but possibly get to come to the green flag the next time through once they all get grouped up. So I'm thinking, just by looking at the points, that Holden Heitritter has a really good opportunity in that 512 to be the 2021 World Cup champion. Again, I mentioned he was 15 points behind Joe Lusk after the Pro 2s. He's currently outrunning Joe Lusk, though, by some 40 points in the running order. And we talk about our real-life pros. How about this duo that's going to be right alongside each other? Parker Clearman in 13th and Ron Capps in 14th, going to be doing some battling.
Yeah, and both these guys have been big advocates, not only of this event, but of iRacing and the platform in general. They both do a lot of behind the scenes to promote the platform, and they're out here having some fun. They're talking a little trash with their buddies. There's a lot of bragging rights in regards to this event on the line for these guys. But both of them, I just got to tip the cap to them because they've put in a ton of work to help increase the presence of the iRacing platform.
And Parker's so involved as a team owner in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series as the team owner of Kligerman Sport, which was once Burton Kligerman Esports, will be fielded a team in that upcoming series on the iRacing service, which will be a ton of fun to watch. And we've already talked about the massive impact that Ron Capps has had getting involved not only in just a whole bunch of different kinds of races here on the service, but in all these big events as well. Has really been a great member of the sim community since he joined last year in the middle of 2020. Just waiting on the lights to let us go. And, we saw that competition caution come just under 7 minutes left on the clock, but because it's a longer pace lap, you lose significantly more time. You can see the clock already clicking down towards 4 minutes. This is really going to be a dash.
Yeah, this is going to be a shootout here. This is absolutely going to be a shootout. This is going to be interesting. I definitely think, all 5, maybe 6, 7 of the top trucks have a real shot at this. Cut up there in the 8th spot, possibly. Lusk in 9th, who won the last one. I mean, Sant Jr., he's a veteran. I would say the top 10 trucks, all of them have a real legitimate shot at taking home a win here. We might be able to get 3 laps in, but it's going to be tight. So I'm really excited to see this shootout, but it is going to be go time. There is no rest for the wicked here. There's no way to rest on your laurels. You're going to have to go. You're going to have to put the pedal to the metal, and you're going to have to play defense because I got to tell you, you are going to have a lot of guys coming at you and coming at you fast. And if you're a one height rider, you definitely are going to be watching that rearview mirror.
We are doubled up, Tiffany, going to be coming to the green flag this next time by.
Exactly, and there's going to be a lot of gameplay that's into this. You have to be very strategic, like Jim was saying. You're not going to be able to have time to set up your turns or set up your passing and looking through everything. I mean, Cam Peterson has got a good shot, and Pudio. I mean, I'm looking at that, and I love that bright truck out there. And when I was being able to watch some of the replay from the start, I mean, he just went through it clean. But hey, I mean, he's used to dodging, cows out in the desert in Baja, so this has nothing for him. He's going to be dodging a bunch of cars out, or a bunch of trucks out there.
Yeah, a couple of virtual trucks won't hurt, so we'll see what he can do in this one as they come through. You can see the finish line there. That is where we'll go back green, so a couple of sets of corners. It looks like, based on the time on the clock and the average lap time here in the sub 1 minute 20 second range, we're going to be right on the border of a 2-lap shootout, I think is going to be the number. So you will have 2 laps to go when this race restarts to determine the Pro 4 feature winner and evidently to determine the General Tire eShort Course World Cup presented by Fistful of Bourbon champion. Pace truck off and away. Holted Height Rider alongside Cam Peterson going to control the field as the clock winds down, and they keep them in a slow roll. Pace speed 45 miles an hour. Now into the final corner. They'll set up, put the right foot down. Green flag flies. We're back underway. Here comes Peterson for the race lead.
A little bit of bumping and banging there. And Pudia taking the short way through the grass, putting a fender there on Peterson. Height Rider, what he's seeing. Well, Peterson all the way up on the bike, getting a little love there. Looked like from Connor Parise. Meanwhile, Height Rider, he's out front, loving this. Nobody's got anything for him right now.
The more they fight for second on the back, the more he enjoys it. They are all over each other. You saw Peterson get a move. Look at the slide there into the door of Amputi. I think that was the big slide courtesy of Dave Bodio who got into him. There's flipping in the back of the field. That might have been Josh Fox, who I saw on his lid. James Ambrosius, Gary Green, also in the vicinity of the chaos. Again, looking for the white flag next time by. Height Rider leads, Amputi is second, and we are 3 wide for third.
Wow, what a shootout, what a battle here. All the way to the bottom is Bobby Rafferty. Whoa, and we've got the 16 of Bodio up into the marbles. He's going to come back down and see if he can resume without getting hit. But wow, what a battle we've got here for these final couple of spots. Every last point on the line. These drivers know it. They're trying to scrape by. They're trying to get as many points as possible to try and factor into this World Cup championship.
They are showing the sense of urgency. Bodio going to get things back on track in position 5. He'll get crossed up now and be side by side with a 77 to Luke Canup. They touch. You can see even further back, more beating and banging. This is Cam Peterson and company on back. You got Barry, you got Briley, Parise, and Edmondson all throwing it into the hairpin corner. The 22 truck gets turned. Your race leader, bottom right corner of your screen, Holden Heitritter, trying to close this one out.
Yeah, and it looks like we're going to time out here, so I think this is going to be the final lap. I don't think we're going to get another one in. Heitritter, he is in the catbird seat here. A massive lead over Hampudia in the second spot.
He got a decent finish in the first feature of P10, but he had accrued a lot of points through the rest of the evening. Everybody else get a scrap for every last bit, but Holden Heitritter looking for a knockout punch in the Pro 4 final. He'll take the checkered flag and win the Pro 4 feature at Crandon. A huge pack. Final quarter from Connor Berry on back. That was for P6. Here is the 77, Parker Kliggerin sliding across the line for P17, top to bottom, giving it everything they had.
Wow, what a race, what an event. Man, this is going to go to the scorecards here, and we're going to tally up some points. But I got to tell you, top to bottom, whether it was heat races, whether it was Pro 2 main event, Pro 4 main event, man, this definitely delivered, and you got to give a lot of credit to the 512 Holden Heitritter. A lot of pressure. He was able to hold on here to take home the win at Crandon.
And he'll get the 50 points courtesy of this feature race win. Alan Ampudia comes home in second. Bobby Rafferty is third, with Josh Fox and Luke Canup in the number 5 spot. Connor Berry finishes in P6. Dave Bodio is 7th. Cameron Peterson in 8th. Connor Parise 9th. And Trenton Briley jam our top 10.
Yeah, rounding out your top 10, Trenton Briley there. Cam Peterson, this just wasn't his day. I know he came in here, a lot of pressure being the reigning World Cup champ. We'll definitely see him back next time. Josh Edmondson there in the 11th, Mikey Lawrence, Brandon Proudfoot, Bobby Sant Jr. Travis Pastrana battling back for 15th. I know he got shuffled towards the back. Landon Castle, Parker Kliggerman, Gary Green, Greg Biffle. Stoked to see Greg Biffle back behind the wheel. And Sean Stratton with that spectacular spill earlier in the day back there in the 20th spot. Rounds us out with Ambrosius, Joe Lusk, Ron Cap, Bucky Lassick, Rodrigo Ampudia, Mason Prater, and Ronnie Anderson finishing 8 laps down.
Going to be awfully close between the drivers who finished first and second in this feature. Of course, Holden Heitritter was 10th in the Pro 2 feature. He wins this one. Alan Ampudia, though, finished 4th in the Pro 2. He finishes 2nd in this one. So it is going to be awfully tight between all of those drivers. And in the meantime, let's go back trackside with Tiffany Stone, who's standing by with your Pro 4 feature race winner. That's Holden Heitritter.
Holden, a big congratulations to you. Obviously, Crandon is a beast in itself, 1.8 miles. Walk us through what you saw, especially with the land rush start going all the way into gravel pit.
Yeah, the land rush start, I just knew I had to get a good start. Didn't get the best, but came out pretty clean, and there's just carnage behind me everywhere. There's people dooring and flipping. It was crazy.
And talking about that carnage, how does somebody like you stay calm, stay collected, make sure that you get out there up front?
I just got to try to play it cool and remember that there's a long race ahead of me.
There's always going to be a long race. Was there a turn out here or the parts of the track that gave you a little bit of difficulties?
I felt like the back 180 was getting harder and harder each lap. I kept fading up, but other than that, it was pretty fun. Everything seemed pretty good.
And one more thing for you. How was it with so many trucks out on course tonight?
It was crazy. There was trucks everywhere.
Awesome. Well, big congratulations to you again.
Thank you.
And a big thanks to our Pro 4 race winner, Holden Heitritter, for joining us in the broadcast booth. Again, he was in a a very good position there to give himself a top spot here in the points. Those points, Jim, you mentioned going to the scorecard, still being tabulated, double, triple checking the numbers. So we crown our 2021 World Cup champ.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of points up for grabs, through qualifying, through the heats, now through these main events. I got to tell you, this is an exciting event. I think it definitely delivered. Stoked to be calling this thing for CBS Sports. It's been a long time coming for the iRacing service, and especially eShort course. I know it's something new to the service, one of the newest disciplines, but I got to tell you, I think it definitely delivered today, Evan.
I mentioned this is a good way to kick off 2021, right? Sounds funny with the World Cup to be the first event to kick things off, right? But, talking about all the things we've done here in eShort course on iRacing and the way that people can see those other events. Last year we talked about Cam Peterson, the defending World Cup champ. It wasn't just that one event, Jim. Tons of different events were hosted. I'm sure more events still to come this year that were used to qualify for this. I don't think it's too early to mention your top 5 finishers in this race tonight get locked in to the 2022 World Cup. So always looking towards that next step to continue to grow eShort course.
Yeah, and they're already locked into 2022, but more importantly, the World Cup is the start of our Triple Crown. So there's 2 more major events coming. One will be in the dirt and one will be on the pavement. We haven't determined what those tracks are going to be quite yet. But yes, the World Cup, just the start of our Triple Crown. So there is a whole lot more on the line here with eShort as 2021 progresses.
I was just looking at some of the other names that have won the events, right? Cam Peterson, Brandon Proudfoot, the Pro 2 Invitational winner from last year. Cam Peterson won the Pro 4 invite, Tiffany, but then we also saw other guys, right? Like Luke Cadup get the Crandon World Cup last year. Brandon Proudfoot, winner of the Pro 2 Showdown. This is an ever-growing part of the iRacing and the esports community. And I'll throw it all the way back to the very first point I made, that maybe at the start of last year, those drivers with a lot of sim time had a big advantage. We saw a lot of the real life pros step up today.
I saw a lot of them, and what's so great about that is a lot of these real life pros have raced out on Crandon, but you have the Luke Canups, you have the other ones, the Brandon Proudfoots out there, and it was great to see that. And unfortunately, with Cam Peterson, it wasn't necessarily his night. But what's so great about it is just to be able to see all of these drivers come together and be able to see this. I've seen this track in person. Jim's seen this track in person, and it looks so real out there. And I know the drivers are having a great time as well.
And it's officially on my bucket list. We'll toss things right back over to you. We now stand by with Alan Ampudia, who came home second in this Pro 4 feature.
Alan, I've never got a chance to talk to you, but you just killed it out there today. Through the land rush start, you were super clean. I made the joke that, hey, out in Baja, you're used to dodging cows. How was it out there dodging 20-plus trucks for a land rush start at the infamous Turn 1?
Yeah, it was really hard. It was exciting to say the least. I'm sweating. I feel like I just worked out, but it was super fun. I mean, luckily, I don't know how I got through everyone without rolling or crashing. It was chaotic. Everyone knows about that in Turn 1 in Crandon, especially in sim racing. But, I made it happen. And from there on, I just try to keep pushing and try to keep up with the front guys. And it all worked out in the end.
Well, you took everybody by surprise, especially with what you've done tonight. Can we say that you might be racing some more in sim racing? And are you ever going to come out to Crandon maybe for, Labor Day weekend when we do those things out there for real? Because I would love to see you go as clean as you do with the real trucks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more sim racing and, with this pandemic, definitely I got into this. So it's been really fun. And man, there's so many fast kids out there and, just lucky to be coming out with second place. And yeah, I've been to Crandon a bunch of times, never been able to race. So hopefully in the near future, I get to drive and go out there and show what I got.
Well, you definitely showed the sim world what you are all about. Congratulations.
Thank you guys for putting this together.
Thank you.
So that's your second place finisher from this Pro 4 feature race. And just looking, at the running order and kind of comparing, right, trying to do the math into my head as we wait on that official word where these drivers stack up with one another. Certainly, I think off at the top of the night, if I had to put money on one name, I don't know if it would have been the 5, 12, and the 10, right? You think those drivers have a real good look for a top 5 in points, but we talked about a bit of a mistake by Cam. Those two drivers didn't just luck into this, right? They're not finishing 6th and ending up towards the top. It's tough, with 27 trucks in a feature race. to be first and second, especially after all of the chaos we saw. And we'll pass it right back over to you, T-Stone. Bobby Rafferty finished just behind those two guys. He was third in our feature, and we've got him now.
Bobby, it's so good to see you out here all the time, especially here for the World Cup Championship. Walk us through what you saw, because we've talked about how you have to carry that momentum out of those turns, and we saw a lot of that tonight.
Well, the first 2 laps, I saw a lot of flying trucks in a lot of different directions. So it was a matter of just getting through, at least in the feature, getting through the first 2 laps and trying to keep the truck as clean as I possibly could. It was definitely very busy, but a lot of fun. I didn't run that great in the Pro 2 in the feature. Got involved and felt like every single mess, including me not being able to check up in time for my teammate Dave Bodio. So I just want to publicly apologize to him. But I feel like, the second place in the heat race, coming across the line like that, and then going, I believe, 25th to 3rd, a little bit of a redemption for me, considering last time we were here, I didn't even make the feature.
Well, going off of that, especially with you just talking about your Pro 2, for our viewers that aren't very, sure about a Pro 2 versus a Pro 4, what's the main difference, especially in sim racing?
The Pro 2 is a lot more, to me, of a finesse vehicle, and the Pro 4 is, you can really just wring its neck, being 4-wheel drive, obviously. Coming from my real life racing background with, pavement modifieds where we've got 15-inch slick tires, you can really wring those cars' necks. So it suits my driving style. I feel a little bit better, but worked a lot with my teammate Josh Edmondson this week, worn out, as you guys can hear. But worked with him a lot this weekend and, he got me where I needed to be, because the start of this week I was way off pace.
Well, you've done it here. It's good to see you out here. It's good to see you in the top 3. Congratulations again.
Thank you very, very much. And just real quick, I want to thank my team, Jim Beaver Esports, Fistful of Bourbon, Winners Get Whiskey. I couldn't get it done, but congratulations to my teammate, Joe Lusk. Also want to go ahead and thank General Tire, Vision Wheel, the Motorsports Drop with Chris Leone. Also two of my personal sponsors. I want to thank Sans Racing Fabrications and 07 Designs. This one means a lot. Today is the day 9 years ago I lost my father. So today is a pretty emotional day for me, and, this one means a lot.
Well, you've done it here. Maybe he was giving you a little extra finesse like you were talking about and giving you that little push to put you to the top 3.
No, absolutely he was. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
A big thanks to Bobby Rafferty for joining us, and to all 3 of our top finishers, Holton Eichritter with Alan Impudi and Bobby Rafferty. And now to close things out, another major event on the eShort course calendar is coming to gone, and arguably the biggest one to date. And I know that's only going to continue to grow. Before we close things out, Tiffany, I'll go back to you one more time just to get your closing thoughts on another great event.
It's so good to hear guys like Bobby Rafferty, talk about publicly wanting to apologize to some people out there. That talks about sportsmanship. So not only do you see that in the real life, you see it out here. I've got goosebumps. I wish you guys could see it, but it's always a feel good. It's, thank you so much for having me be a part of this. It's a great thing to be able to watch, because a lot of these guys and women out there put their hearts and souls in this, just like if they were racing a real truck without a lot of the expenses that come if you hit a K-rail or if you hit, one of the ruts or something. So it's really great to see this. A big congratulations to everybody again tonight.
Yeah, nobody in their right mind would let me get behind the wheel of a Pro 4 truck, but I can do it on the service safely. So if you want to do it at home and you enjoyed it, go to iRacing.com/membership for more info. And Jim, for all of the work that your team has done behind the scenes for getting this involved, to see the real life guys go head to head with the sim pros, the blending of those 2 worlds for this World Cup was always the best part, I think.
Yeah, this is one of the few places where we can blend the real world with the sim world, and and a little bit in between. I always enjoy this. I know we're getting word now that Holden Heidritter is our World Cup champion for 2021. So big shout out to Holden Heidritter. A great evening for him. Big shout out to everybody that came out and supported this event. All the sim drivers, all the real world pros. I know especially in the real world, we've got a lot of events starting to get rolling, and just stoked that everybody was able to turn out for this event and make it so amazing.
I said at the very end, he was hoping that win in the Pro 4 feature was a knockout punch. It was, as he ends up on the top of the podium at the end of the night. That's it for us, though, here for the virtual Crandon International Off-Road Raceway. So for our entire team at iRacing.com, and on behalf of the broadcast crew tonight, for Tiffany Stone, Jim Beaver, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to say thanks for joining us, and congratulations to Holden Heidritter, your Jim Beaver Esports General Tire eShort Course World Cup, presented by Fistful of Bourbon champion. This has been a special presentation of iRacing on CBS Sports. We'll catch you next time online.
General Tire was born more than 100 years ago, right here in America.